Start, guys. All right, I'd like to call to order the Romeo Downtown Development Authority meeting, regular meeting for Monday, March 6, 2023 at 7 p.m. Elizabeth, can you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Tar?
Here.
St. Laurent?
Here.
Lee? Here. Brandt?
Here.
Rose?
Here.
Hayes?
Here.
Poznanski?
Here.
McLeod and Hutnick are absent.
Thank you. Next, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we have public forum. Is anybody here for public forum tonight? No? All right. All right, we will move on to the approval of the agenda.
I do have one addition, if I could. For Starkweather, the talk of their peace polls that we're planning, we could add that in.
Are we going to do it?
It probably could be unfinished, because I
Yeah,
know
let's
that
do
was
that.
brought here before for funding, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we do
so
B?
let's move it to B for unfinished business. Starkweather, you said peace polls?
Yes.
Okay. Starkweather peace polls. All right, do we have a,
If I can add, make a suggested add as well.
Okay.
Probably under new business, it's something new we need to plug in as an employment committee. Can have a
Should-
discussion on that.
do you think that'll just come up with the pillars? Is it in there somewhere? Since we're kind of basing it off of the four?
I'm fine looking at that. I didn't
Okay.
see where it would plug in. It's up to you if you think
Okay.
it would.
Maybe let's just do it at that point, since it's kind of like, we can give it a little
That's fine.
bullet underneath that, and we'll make that determination if it's not clear in the pillars there.
And then I wanted to add a social media policy under new business.
Do you want to review the current social media policy or update?
Well, I guess review and discuss.
Okay. And that's under new business?
Mhm.
Do we have that documented? Do you have that to review?
I do not. I wasn't able to locate one.
Okay. So that's J, new business, social media policy review?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda with the changes?
I'll make a
Add,
motion.
I'm sorry, as amended?
Yeah,
Okay.
as amended?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by St. Laurent, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Tar, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Next up, we need the approval of the minutes. Let's start with the January 9th one. We have the revised minutes. I think there was just, we needed some clarification on who was and wasn't in attendance on there, so that's been updated. Do we have a motion to approve the January 9th minutes?
I'll make it.
Motion by Tar, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brandt. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we need an approval of the February 6th regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Lee. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brandt. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that does it for the approval of the minutes. Next, we'll move on to the financial report by our Executive Director, Elizabeth Miller.
Sure, so I'll read you the letter from Danielle Kelly from Plant Moran. The financial statements are year-to-date from July 1, 2022 to February 27th, 2023. The month was closed prior to the end of the month due to the timing of the board meeting. All transactions are included with the exception of interest income for the month of February. They've seen that the last few months too, that happens. Revenue collected to date is $2,550. That should be a comma, not a period. Related to Winterfest, Screechfest, Christmas sponsorship, and office renovations donations. Total bills presented for approval is $9,870.55. Work completed, this is just under financials, of course. The bookkeeper, Rebecca, entered all invoices, issued checks, and processed payroll. Plant Moran closed the month through February 27th and prepared schedules for the board packet. That is the report.
Thank you.
I have a question. What is McGraw-Morris, the 2,227.50?
That was for legal services. That was directed, that was board communication with an attorney.
Specifically pertaining to the previous lease as well as the current lease that we signed into. We did have them review that ahead of time, but there were some other questions that the previous chair and co-chair engaged in with our attorney.
Okay.
On the visa, is there backup for the charges? So there's like specification for the Amazon charges?
Yes, absolutely. Every single charge is printed on a separate sheet, and there's a stamp that we have, and so it says Visa, it says what account it goes to, the amount approved by, which is me, the signature, and then when those checks are signed, so I went through this with, because Carl did bills for the first time, it was a couple weeks ago, right, Carl? And so I went through and showed him what has been the procedure and the protocol for that.
So-
Yep, so those are available for review at the office anytime.
Are they in our packets, or can they be put in our packet so we have access to them?
You always have access to them at the office. I can bring them to the board meetings. I mean, if I put every single receipt in there, that would be probably about an additional 30 pages of paper in there.
Can they be on our online packets?
I mean, I think we talked about having them on hand should any questions arise just at the meeting specifically, so I think it does, I don't think it necessarily has to be included in our
Yeah, or
packet,
just
but just so,
available.
just so that
Of
if
course.
the question comes up at the meeting,
Sure.
we can have
Does the
clarification.
chair and vice chair see them, review them as you guys are paying?
I did see all that, yeah.
they at least look at them?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I ask questions.
All right, any other questions on the financial report?
Yes, the Amazon charges, only which jumps out at me because of the number of them. Any of these related to office, new office?
Yes, a majority of them are related, yes, to the new office renovations that were, all of those items were approved within a budget amount.
So they're in, okay, so not all of them, but most of them, you said?
Correct. I don't have them in front of me to look at them, but I'd be happy to show them to you anytime.
Okay, yeah,
For
so
sure.
those would fall into the budget for new office.
Yeah, and the new, the office capital expenditure line item in the suggested budget amendment, it's, the account number is 721.000. So as you, if you were to look at all those receipts, you would see that stamp, you would see 720.000, the specific amount, and then what, so it's showing what account it goes to.
And do we have anybody, and I guess this is gonna go more towards Zach, looking at that as far as it relates to the budget, so we know where we are in the budget and when we,
I haven't specifically looked at, not that it's, I haven't asked for it, so, but it is, I know there's like there's one of those, it's like a working spreadsheet basically with all the expenses and they're added. I just, to be honest with you, I've not looked at it.
I just have to ask because I don't, we meet once a month, I don't wanna get to,
Sure.
all of a sudden it's 30 days later and we go, oh, guess what?
Right.
We didn't hit this budget, so I just wanna know who is looking at that and marrying it up.
Well, I would assume, Elizabeth, you're watching your expenditures compared to your budget.
Of course,
Right.
yes.
So, I mean, it's,
So you know where we are.
Yes, absolutely. And the accountants look at that, and the bookkeeper looks at it, correct.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, then we need a motion to approve payment of bills through February 28th in the amount of $9,870.55. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Rose, second by Tar. Elizabeth, will you do a roll?
Sure, Tar,
yes.
St. Laurent,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes?
Hayes,
Yes.
Poznanski.
Yes.
Okay.
You didn't call
Oh,
me.
Lee, sorry, I'm looking at my paper, I'm sorry, yes, Lee.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next, Elizabeth Miller, you're up again with the
Sure.
report, your report.
Sure, so my director's report, Downtown Romeo in the News. We have been featured in another news article regarding the Fort County Community Foundation Summer 2023 Return to Earn Internship Initiative. This is not a typo from last month, this is another one. This time it was published by the Shelby Utica News. We are honored to be included in promoting this valuable program, and the full article is attached for your review, and there's a couple other photos were put in there. An Armada high school graduate was included in there, and then also another Romeo High School graduate was included in that same article, so that was nice. The reporter reached out to us a few different times, just saying, I really want to do this article, so that was fun to do. Winterfest was featured in several articles and news media sources, including but not limited to The Record, the Macomb Daily, Channel 4 and Channel 7 News, the Mitt TV, and WBRW. I believe there was a piece that happened on Saturday. I was interviewed on the Friday before. It was put up on Channel 4. I've yet to see that, but it's floating out there apparently somewhere. Online newsletters via MailChimp continue. We are using this in new ways to communicate with our central business district and the general newsletter, now over to 1,900 subscribers. This is a form of communication that is new to the DDA as of late 2022. And this is a standalone from our social media numbers. So those numbers are never rolled into any of those data sources that you see. It would be a standalone. Community collaboration, we are working on several annual calendars with our community partners. So far, we have several dates for participation in Downtown Romeo from the Romeo District Library and Parks and Rec. I had the pleasure of attending the 2023 Economic Forecast Luncheon as a guest of the Greater Romeo Washington Chamber of Commerce, and as a result, some new connections were made at the county level. Macomb Orchard Trail has our shopping and dining guides prominently displayed, along with our QR code and 4 trailside info bulletin information boards. And a big thank you to our volunteer Joan Den for making the changes as needed. She, I think Danielle, you met her for the first time on Thursday night. She's not able to attend our daytime meetings due to her employment, but she's always volunteers to help with whatever she can after hours, and so she enjoys changing those out there for us. The new DDA office space is coming along nicely. We have been in the receiving end of so many donations, both in monetary form, in-kind services, volunteer time, and so much more, and I'm looking forward to giving a full report on that at a future meeting. People Driven Credit Union generously delivered a plethora of office furniture on Saturday, February 7th. And it was, didn't get there till 7 o'clock at night. They thought it was gonna happen sooner, so we had a late night that night. This has been, they had so much that they were bringing to Romeo, including their own updated furniture. So we had to arrange to have the remaining items delivered this past week. And right now, I think the office looks pretty amazing, considering none of it was, we received it all as generous donations. We are grateful for all that they have continued to contribute to our space. IT equipment and internet services will be coming in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We continue to take advantage of a little plug for the Romeo District Library. They have the RDL hotspots. If you've ever seen those, is available for a 2-week rental. Free of charge, and that is how we work every day, is with that hotspot, because it's, we aren't able to access their guest Wi-Fi through the flooring. It just doesn't come through. So we continue to use that until we have those services later on. So I just keep using my personal library card and getting a new one every 2 weeks. I had to go get one this morning. Let's see, where am I at? Let's see. Included in my report is an email from Richard D'Amato, owner of RJD Galleries. They have generously donated a framed limited edition of Andrea Couch's work, In the Distance. She looks stunning on the brick wall and can be seen by all who enter into the space, and we are honored to have her work displayed at the DDA offices. So we're excited to have her. I'm not sure if she'll be in attendance when we have our grand opening or not, but I know there will be representatives from RJD Gallery. For those of you who, I think all of you have been to the office space, there isn't a lot of wall space, believe it or not. And the one wall it could go on in the main entry area, it would be dwarfed by the copier services that will be there eventually. And so you can see it through the glass into my office, and it can be viewed by everybody. So it's pretty neat to have that up. And we had a handyman installed that just on Thursday. So that is my director's portion of my report, and Madison is going to go into her events report, but it was requested, which we were already doing. You can come on up, and I think you have to turn it on. I think it turned it off earlier. Danielle Lee worked with Madison in crafting some of the survey questions, and we've done surveys before, so this wasn't our first time doing this. And there were 3 parts to this, so I'll turn this over to Madison.
Yeah, so my first part of the report is going over Winterfest. So there's a lot of discussions happening surrounding Winterfest, what went right, what went wrong, and what's the best way to find out but to ask both our central business district as well as the public what their opinions were, and then we can collect that data from there. So working with Danielle and kind of picking up on some of the things that we can work on, we have both some quantitative data in the back of each little section, because you have like the CVD survey results, and then you have your little pie charts, that's our quantitative, as well as attached with all of our written feedback. So we have one thing you loved, one thing you'd like to change, and one thing you'd like to see next year. So this is all constructive criticism. We had 42 responses in our public and 22 responses from our central business district. From our central business district, most of those responses were our restaurant and retail, as a lot of our service businesses might not have been affected by, oh, you know, we got a crowd of people coming down, we might not buy a house today. So that was the focus of these survey results that I received. In these packets is all of the feedback that I've received. Every sort of written thing. So if you see like spelling errors, it's because I copied and pasted it because I didn't want to change anything. There were a couple instances where people wrote, oh, nothing or not available. Those instances have been taken out because that's a lot of paper. It's a lot. So let's jump right into our quantitative data. We got 22.7% of our central business district strongly agree that it was a positive experience. 36.4% of our central business district agree that it was a positive experience. We were doing kind of a rating system. Let me get down to our pie charts. One of the main things that we had talked about before was communication regarding this event, seeing what the opinions were of our central business district. We have 27.3% strongly agree that it was effective, with 45.5% agreeing that it was effective. And then we have a question, which I was told by some of the businesses was subjective, was Romeo Winterfest a success? It's very specific to each business. It might be, you know, was it a success to yourself? I don't know. Do you think it was a success in a big picture? This is a subjective question. It's kind of, you take it of what you think. But overwhelmingly, people did agree that it was a success. So we have 19% strongly agree with 42.9% agree. And this is the opinions of our central business district. Now shifting over and to see what our general public seem to think. You see at the top here with the one thing you loved, I have italicized and kind of bolded some of these top things because we had so many responses. A lot of people just wrote the 5K, 5K. I love the 5K, so I kind of just put those all into one category, so you're not reading that all the same all the time. So we have a lot of mentions of people loved the people downtown. People love the small town feel. I love everyone describes it as a little community, which is nice. And these are visitors. Visitors see that this is a little community and this is a little family. So kind of scooching down, a lot of people love the chili cook-off. Good things. Some of the things that people would like to see next year is better restroom placement. A lot of people couldn't find exactly where they had to go, and there was a lot of different things where we need to work on our signage. So that's an area that we can improve on for next event, next time. And there was a lot of things where people felt like there wasn't as many new things. It's the second year doing this. We could have added more. So that's another constructive criticism for looking into the future. Something new and exciting each time. Something that people can look forward to. Oh, I've never seen that before. Wouldn't that be cool? So let's space down over into our pie charts again, because this is where the fun data comes in. Was Romeo Winterfest a positive experience? We got 42.9% of the public strongly agree, with 40.5% agree. So that's over 80% of everyone who took this survey had a good time. That's pretty good. I learned about a new business in town, because one of our main goals is we want to encourage the economic development and prosperity of our central business district. So if we're bringing in new people, this is kind of a way to see if there's a new person here, did they learn about something new that they could go back to and return to on another day? And you see this it kind of looks like a bunch of thirds here. We got 33 and a third % agree that they learned about a new business in town, with another third saying neutral, and then 21.4% saying that they disagree. So there's a lot of people who came to town who already knew about different businesses, didn't discover anything. But a third of these people found something new. I think that's a pretty impeccable number there. People are finding something and they might return, which is cool. And that's the next question. I would return to Romeo on another day. And we have 69% strongly agree that they would come back, with 21.4% saying that they would agree. So that is overwhelmingly, everyone would love to come back to Romeo. All right.
Real quick, oh, I'm sorry, were you?
Yeah, if you want to interject.
Oh, I was gonna ask about the Placer AI data that we had. Now, do we have, it's great that we have a snapshot for that day, but what about like the Saturday before that and the Saturday after that, just so we can kind of compare, because we really don't have like a gauge of what those numbers truly mean unless we know what an average Saturday in the winter looks like traffic-wise.
Yeah, so we did request for that data. So we should be getting that. I don't know when, but
The
we
county
did
wasn't able
request
to get
for
that
it.
back to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime.
So once we have that data, we'll be,
Yeah, we
you
can
know, thrilled
review
to
that
share.
for next month. That'd be great just to have.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's hard to judge if you don't know what's basis off, because if there's not a lot of people for the rest of the weeks, then, you know, we can see that little jump there. But we'll get into the Placer AI data in a minute. Our next thing is our 5K survey. So this was not conducted by the DDA. This was conducted by, was it Coach Buslick and his wife?
Yeah, Jen Buslip did
I
this.
wasn't sure on the name of the program, if it was both of them. So this is conducted through all of the participants in the 5K. So this is something that a lot of the people who came down, you see that it was italicized earlier, they loved the 5K. They loved coming out for it. 82.1% rated it a 5 out of 5, and 17.9% rated it out of 4 out of 5. To my knowledge, this is one of the only winter 5Ks happening nearby where you're actually running in the streets. Like you can see our downtown and can come back, and it feels more together. Everyone's seeing each other, and it's not just, oh, we're running down this little racetrack here. Going through, would you recommend this race to a friend? 96.3 respondents said yes. And but overwhelmingly, there was a lot of positive feedback for this. So this was very smoothly well run. I think this is something that we would love to implement in the future, bring it back. Come through. There's so much feedback, which is great. Does anyone have any questions so far before I?
No question, but a comment. I
Yeah.
had a couple residents say how fun it was to see everyone run by their house in the morning, specifically all cozy inside eating their cereal while they see all these people being aggressive outside and like kind of high five, good for you all. But yeah, I'm nice and warm. But a couple people said it was fun to see out their window.
Well, you don't really see, a group of 300 people just booking it past your house every day. That's kind of a sight, But I think that sort of community dynamic is something that we're really seeing in a lot of this feedback, that people are coming together and enjoying things together. All right. We're shifting into our Placer AI data. So we've included the entire packet. If you see at the bottom, it says 2 out of 9. The first page was just a cover page that was entirely blue, and that would have been a lot of printer ink, and it just said February 4th, so you're not missing out on anything. So if we go through and flip over, you see at the top where it says metrics, we got visits, average dwell time, and visitors, and these are kind of the numbers that we focus on. You see the visits and visitors, those are the same number. But they do have different definitions within the Placer AI data. Visitors is the number of unique pings. So what it does is it takes, when your phone passes by, it bounces off a satellite and it collects that ping. So that's the unique ping. Visits is the number of times like those pings happen, from my understanding. So those are pretty even, where it's individuals coming into town and they stay in town, and it's like those kind of go together hand in hand. Dwell time is also very important. Since this is an event, we want dwell time to be up. I think in the past, our average dwell time was around 120 minutes. The average dwell time for February 4th was 140 minutes. So again, this would be handy if we had the other weeks to compare off of what would be the best time range for people staying. But just over 2 hours, that's not too bad. It was freezing out. People were all bundled up, so staying outside, going from business to business, 2 hours, it's not too bad.
Madison, I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you for something. I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
I think they gave us the wrong data.
Yeah,
This
it
says
says
February
2022.
4th, 2022.
What?
So no wonder it didn't make sense to us before. But on the bottom, like it said, yeah. They sent us.
Yeah, I see that too
They
now.
sent us the wrong.
All right.
They sent
Well,
us the wrong year. Oh,
we're gonna
no.
have to look at this.
Well, we'll get you the whole thing, so we can compare the Saturday before, the Saturday, and the Saturday after of 2023.
Well, that's okay,
So-
because nobody else caught it either. I didn't notice it.
Since Thursday, thank you for,
Yeah.
well,
All right.
okay.
Well,
I'm
this
so
is a little
sorry.
educational piece on how this is supposed to be analyzed, so.
A couple, if there, because I'm just, my confusion on this, so like, out of average dwell time, could it be skewed by, if somebody lives in the central business district and they're using these pings on their phone, if they're at home for 12 hours, does that skew the average? It doesn't take that into, how do they know the difference between?
It's from this page here, right?
Yeah, let me,
Go to page 5 of the year-old data.
so it shows who goes where and kind of the most likely places that people are coming from. So we have the 73.6% coming from home to the 76.7% after our home. So these are places before and then returning from after this location. Also, a lot of people really like the washing time laundromat. We got 1.7% there.
And this is something, if the board is interested, we can have someone from the county come and present, and maybe, I don't know if next month is too short of a notice for them to do that, but they can speak, and I know they've been very interested in kind of using Romeo as sort of like a test market to advertise how Placer AI data can actually help your community with your different events and things like that for promotion and whatnot. So they'll be able to definitely speak to this much better than we are.
Yeah, because I'm kind of curious, like how, like, because that's in Washington, that's all the way at 27 in Van Dyke. Like, how is that place relevant to the data?
The Lakes report you're looking at.
Well, no, it's still, I mean, it still says Romeo DDA.
Yeah, but this year's has got local businesses listed.
This year's does?
Yeah, I'm sure Elizabeth will agree, yeah.
Okay.
That's, I mean, you're looking at downtown LA right there on one of them.
Well, yeah, but this is the report for the Romeo DDA.
Which page are you looking at?
Five.
Property overview.
property overview.
Page 6 you're looking at?
So this is,
4.95.
so from what I understand from what they told us before when we went through this, through a webinar last year, is when it's saying prior, that people are coming from their homes, the destination is a circle in the middle, that's downtown.
That's us.
So
That's us in the middle.
1.7% of our people came from Washington
Of the,
Laundromat
of
before
the
they came to
data
us?
source in this, so the numbers that you're getting on this data, February 4th, 2022, 73% were coming from their home base into Romeo.
Yeah, and
And
one
then
point.
76% went back to their house after coming into downtown Romeo.
Right, so according to this, 1.7% came from Washington Laundromat.
Yeah,
According to
it's a
this.
weird little.
It's
a
gotta
weird
be like
skew.
the closest, like, thing
Ping
that they,
area.
yeah, because there's no way. So maybe some clarification on that would be helpful,
Sure.
just so we're, because it is kind of confusing when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll have updated information next month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's kind of.
We were just testing you guys, seeing if you were paying attention to your board packets.
Just halfway. Halfway.
Well, I'm glad we have that.
Yeah, thanks for catching that.
So moving on, we have our budget report on the back of your little cover sheet here. We started off with a budget for Winterfest of $6,000, and then came up to an expense total of $6,062.19. We've received multiple monetary sponsorships, totaling of $1,300. And our total budget ended up coming up to $7,300. And then our ending balance with a positive result was $1,237.81. We also have a little note here. When the food truck permits were refunded, it resulted in a total refund of $95.88, because there's fees taken out through Square. So that's not something that we can control through that.
So what was the actual cost to the DDA? What did we put out for the event?
For us, so the total number of expenses was $6,000 and $6,062.19.
That from the DDA for the event?
No, the total amount, so we had $1,300 in donations, so the total expenses were $6,062. So $7,300 minus this, so we still have a positive balance in the, we're ahead by $1,237.81.
Right, but what I'm asking is, what is the DDA paying? What are the bills that we're paying for the event? What did it cost the DDA?
Well, the bills actually paid were $6,062.19.
So that is the right number?
Yes.
Okay. And then is there a breakdown of those invoices? Of what adds up to the $6,062.19?
Yes, we
Yes.
have that.
Okay, and how do we have access to that?
We can get you copies.
Perfect. Okay, so will you email those? Or how do we,
We can, I guess there hasn't been a process in place of how you all want to receive that. So, I mean, if it's going to be part of documentation, I guess I could include it in next month's board packet. How would you, Zach, what direction do you want me to go on that?
We have to be careful with the administrative tasks. I mean, Elizabeth's one person with, a helper, and we just gotta be careful we don't, if it's all there at the office, I think she's there, it's open, come in and look at it, and I think we just have to be sensitive what we ask her to do, because every hour she spends preparing everything we have here, it's just work she's not doing that, and then there's enough other
I'm
things
assuming
that-
there's a spreadsheet that you have? So is it possible to print the spreadsheet?
I guess from your standpoint, would it be easier to have that conversation if a board member comes in, or would you rather just be able to, to me, in a perfect world, here's how I see this, where you've already started organizing things via the Google Drive,
Yeah.
correct?
Right.
So if we're just dropping those files there under events, where people can pull it up, I mean, that would make the most sense, because that way if anybody wants to access it, they can. It's available, the information's there, you don't have
Yeah.
to send an email.
Sure.
You don't have to deal with people walking in the middle of a meeting or other things that you're working on. I think that would be the most efficient way of doing things.
That's true, just put it in the Google Drive.
Sure,
Yeah.
put it
And
in
then the
in
people
the.
that work can't come during the working hours that she's there, and then you're working after hours and
Yeah,
Christopher,
it's just more
Whatever's
efficient
most
that way.
efficient.
So you're saying once the reports are complete, not
Yeah.
as a working document?
No, not as a working
Okay.
document, like a final, yeah, something
Got
that, if it's something for the board to review that way, no, we don't have to go back and forth via email, and just seems like an easier way to share information, and you've already done a great job of getting that started, so we can access those kind of files, so. I think
Yeah,
that's
then
a great
everyone can
idea.
just
Yeah.
access it at their own leisure.
Sure.
And just pull it up and take a look.
problem.
Perfect.
Alrighty. continuing on, I want to say a big ol' thank you to EM Logics, Shaner Roofing, L&L Products, Metro Electrics, Clear to Close, and FOMAL for sponsoring a total of 7 snowmen to some of our downtown businesses who maybe not have, would have had one this year. And that total was $3,800 combined to our downtown businesses. So I think that's pretty amazing. That's our businesses caring for one another, gifting something, sponsoring for a year, and doing something special for our downtown, even if they're not a downtown business per se.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So this month, we're working on our internal strategies, kind of working on our planning, getting things ahead of time, working on our internal calendars, and this is something that I've been working with Danielle on a little bit, as well as some of our other event and volunteer committee volunteers. So we've been working on an internal planning calendar for future events. Our goal for all is for all event details to be complete 4 to 6 weeks in advance for better business communications. So for those of you who own a business in town, our goal is to have a packet for you with all of your materials, everything that's going to be happening, a schedule of events, kind of technical things, and we're gonna give it to you before, about a month before. So if you have any questions, concerns, you'll have that. And it won't be, hey, we're a week ahead of time. Here you go. You get it, right? So that gives access for questions. Now, we're not expecting to get to that 6 weeks immediately because shifting right into that sort of planning, that takes time. And we need to work on our calendar. So we're hoping for 4 weeks for our next event that we're talking about, and then extending that time, hopefully getting it to the event prior. We have already the event information for the next one. So when people are coming to town, they can go and pick it up right there. Does that sound good to you guys with businesses? Does that
Yeah,
sound
fantastic.
beneficial?
Yeah.
All right. Also, in our internal structure, we're launching volunteer and event subcommittees to help streamline this coordination. We have a lot of amazing volunteers who spend a lot of time, they just are looking for something to be a part of. So we are structuring our event and volunteer committees a little bit differently. And developing little subcommittees. So we have one that's come out that's a restaurant and retail subcommittee, which has restaurant and retail volunteers on it. So we have direct communication from people who have that sort of business experience communicating with our downtown. We also have a beautification subcommittee. If anyone wants to be a part of a beautification subcommittee who can help clean up the trash downtown, maybe help with some gardening, depending on who might want some weeds taken out. Trying to spruce up our downtown a little bit. If you remember last year, we had an alley spruce up, kind of launching off of that, so we can get that springtime feel. We have entertainment, musicians, a whole bunch of different aspects. So if anyone's interested in anything, we can find a spot for you, and this will help us kind of streamline through there.
Madison, real quick, are these subcommittees being formed outside of the DDA subcommittees? How is that working?
So we have our volunteer and event committee, which is what our Thursdays meetings were, and then we shift them to Tuesdays because Danielle is the liaison. So that's that meeting. And then from that meeting, we have our volunteers. And those are subcommittees, I guess, off of another subcommittee, if you look at it from the wide scope of things. Subcommittees off of that meeting. So these are volunteers, and it's kind of more of a focused working group. Does that make sense?
I guess I would just want to make sure that we're not because we talked about this in our workshop a couple weeks ago where we were forming these pillars, and it seems as though if we're organizing this as our board, which is the only way we can really do anything as a board outside of these meetings, I want to make sure that we're not basically we're all focused on the same things. It'd be a shame if there's these volunteer subcommittees but we're also talking volunteers and organization in one of our committees that we've formed. It feels like I don't know if it's just
Might be
hasn't been
doubling
fully
up.
thought out, or
Do you want me
it's
to
not
speak to that?
necessary to have those two, because they kind of feel like they're doing the same thing, right?
Danielle, do you want to speak to that? Because she's been there since the formation of when we started that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think maybe subcommittee is a formal name. These groups of people just have a focus now. So Caroline Miller, she always does kids crafts. So she's kind of leading the kid craft group. So any event that this event subcommittee is looking at, Caroline is gonna take care of kids crafts and anybody else that
Gotcha.
wants to help her with that. You know, retail and restaurant. Kathy Oswald kind of wants to lead that. So she, with a couple other people, are looking at the impact to retail and restaurant.
Okay.
They focus on that, where kind of adult activities is falling under the chamber, Kelly Stevens, that kind of thing. She'll look at, do we want a refreshment tent for this event? So she's focused specifically on that, where Suzanne is focused specifically on musicians. So they kind of were already in that focus area, but now they're outlined a little more specifically,
Okay.
so that it's not every Tuesday that all of these people are coming together and they're trying to throw ideas out. These little groups can meet on their own and then come Tuesday and say, here's what we figured out for musicians. Does that work for everybody? Or here's what we figured out for beautification. Does that work for everybody? Here's what we have for kids crafts. Does that work? It's just a
Okay.
focus.
I guess my question then, which is fine, that's
Yeah.
great that we have so many volunteers, but how do we get from there to board action, I guess? That would be my biggest concern, is just that all that information is now getting filtered up, basically, so that everybody's aware of what all these other subcommittees.
So the Tuesday meeting, as it's been working so far, that I've been at every one since our last meeting, is where all of those ideas come together. There's some discussion about, here's what we're thinking, what do you think, what can you add? Everybody can add things or subtract things. And then, you know, it still goes through Madison and Elizabeth to say, this is how the communication comes out. Madison would come and share, here's Spring is Sprung, that's what came from these meetings, as event meetings. And that's how it'll be communicated here, along with my report, if I am chosen to be the board liaison, of what I know from all these meetings.
Okay, so that's kind of the solution to what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yes, and then under new business, for example, I mean, we have, you know, the Village of Romeo event permit, the 8-week summer concert series. We're looking for direction from this board to say, can we go ahead with this? What direction do you want us to go? So that way we know how we can handle these meetings moving forward, and so forth. And so that's where Danielle has come in beautifully on this, is that she can speak to you all to say, this is what we, you know, are you all on the same page with this or not? So for example, the beautification committee, I'll use that as one, because that kind of came outside of that meeting. There's people who want to do cleanup, do helpful things. I don't think anybody's going to complain about somebody picking up the weeds in
No, not
downtown,
at
or
all.
picking up trash or whatnot. So those, they tend to, and Joan Den happens to be the lead for that. She wants to do that because she can do it outside of those Tuesdays. But specifically, she wants to know, well, what exactly do they want us to do? So that's where we come in and we communicate with Danielle on this, and then it comes back to you guys.
Okay.
But now it can flip, you know, where at some point when you all get to a place where you're like, okay, here's what we want to focus on in the next year, then we have our marching orders. But we've had that with the event calendar that was approved in November. So that's kind of where we're coming out with some of that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, thank you.
So coming from this new, I guess we should call them focus groups. I think they're closer to focus groups than
Maybe that's a good way to put them, yeah.
Yeah. Is a suggested Spring Has Sprung event in downtown Romeo. In the past, last year, we were a part of Arbor Day, but Arbor Day is being held outside of the central business district. So we still want to do something downtown to bring people downtown, bring business downtown, celebrate the spring. So coming from our restaurant and retail focus group is a little weekend celebration, helping to launch the Chalk the Walk in May, a combination of different sort of like, we can have different florists come that can do like a floral sale, different sort of spring-themed activities, maybe seed plantings, maybe a spring window contest, different sort of garden club organizations. So we maybe if they would want to be involved, the Juliet Garden Club, they could get involved. We want to bring in some like more chalk artists. We have a wonderful one who comes in every year, but we want to bring in more. We want to spruce up our downtown a little bit more. And also add in our musicians and just make it a really nice springtime little event that we can bring some business downtown. Coming from this subcommittee focus group is the idea to ask for a one-day Marketplace alley closure.
I actually have to correct that, Madison. I confirmed with Kathy, it would probably be for the week because tents are being delivered.
Oh.
And the tents aren't gonna be delivered before Saturday. So ideally, it would be for the week, starting on Monday, the 24th through the 30th.
Okay.
So we can go into that under new business.
Right.
more in detail.
I just wanted to, I just talked to her today when we met on the restaurant and retail.
Okay. So that's gonna be attached to the new business agenda item. And then shifting from there, we're requesting some board direction regarding our 8-week concert series. Last year it was approved, but there wasn't a timeline approved for where those 8 weeks would land. So we are suggesting through 7/12, which is a Wednesday, through 8/30. I wrote Vintage Fest through Peach Fest because that's kind of the idea of where it falls, and also matches nicely with the Parks and Rec music series already. We've been in communication with Parks and Rec to make this more of a collaborative effort. So we're not having a bunch of different messages everywhere and everyone's like, oh, what music's happening what day? What music's happening over here? And so there's not crossover musicians. So we're not stepping on any toes with being like, hey, you know, we always get this group. We don't want to like snatch them. So our suggestion is for Wednesday nights. Because there's bike night and Jeep night, and it'd be a little bit weird to have musicians playing when you're hearing all of the Harleys go by. That might be a little bit of a conflict there. So I'm looking for board direction and seeing if we can confirm that 7/12 through 8/30 so we can start booking some musicians.
I'd be interested in hearing John's, Carl's thought. You guys, and Zach, you guys do retail business downtown and a great, much better pulse on it. Are we ready for another something down there? I don't know. You guys are, I think it helps a bunch, but is it?
I think anything different. The music is definitely something that draws people, even if you're not familiar with the artist. I mean, it's something to walk into town and to do. If the weather's nice, there's going to be people out there, and I think it's a building block. And you know, you've already got, like mentioned here, bike night and Jeep night. It's for a very specific crowd. Like this is more like bring the family out and just
Right.
come to town. I think it's.
I just didn't know if we could, if there's a need for like 3 different nights. I'm not, it sounds like a good idea. I don't have young kids. Kind of weirdly empty nesters, and as a professional business, so I'm not really,
Yeah.
Romeo used to have concerts in the park. I don't know if anyone remembers that
Oh, yeah.
before, but they were on Wednesday nights. And I owned a business in town at that time, and that park was packed with people, and it was a huge drawing for the businesses in town. I mean, I had a food business, and it was huge for my business, and it was huge for the, people would come in and, grab food, and the park was packed with the music. I don't know if you're referencing spring or if you were talking about the music, which one you're kind of commenting on, but
yeah.
I think the events that are like a concert series, those kind of series events, do better than a one and done one-time weekend event. Those are kind of, you know, if you got a good weekend and there's nothing else going on and you get a bunch of people to come, then those Spring Fest or Winter Fest are great if all the planets align and that one weekend's good. The series, I think, are great because it starts building momentum. And before, when the village did it, and I don't know who exactly was behind it before, I think it may have been Parks and Rec, but it was huge in town. Those concert series were great for business.
What do you think, John and Carl, you guys?
No, I agree. I mean, I get Bike Night and Jeep Night. They're right in front of my store, so they definitely bring people in.
Yeah, it's great. I think the scheduled events are the repeated scheduled events throughout the summer and the nice weather are great.
Yeah, I would, and I know we talked about it before, and I know, is it Suzanne?
Yes.
She's already got a line on different musicians and acts to bring out for that, so I think it's pretty much all put together, so I think it would be, I mean, we'll get to it obviously in, new business and for approval, but we can discuss more then, but yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Cool. All right, and then I have a little looking forward, working on a fancy 2023 publishable calendar of events. We're looking at little kind of cards that we could send out, little postcards, so you can stick them on your fridge and see them all year round. So we're working on those. General, just increasing lead time for businesses in regards to events. And then hopefully for our next meeting, I will have the Vintage Fest technical mapping, so we can look at that and see about moving forward, see what might work, what might not, just so you guys are prepared for seeing that next month.
And obviously, this is quite a long report.
Yeah.
Normally, Madison's not even here to speak to this, but this was something that you all wanted, and so it was important for her to explain the data, you know, and what's coming up. So,
Yeah. Thank you, Madison.
Thank you.
Any questions, concerns?
We look forward to seeing you next month with the updated
Oh,
Placer
yeah.
AI data.
Yes.
What's the status of, while she's here, Madison, with her employment? And I know she came in through the Board County thing and such, and it's gotta be about a year or so ago now. What happens?
So under the approved budget, the 22-23 budget, you all approved her part-time. So she's under, she's not under the internship, she's a part-time employee.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. You're doing a lot of great stuff.
I think I've been here overall pretty much a year, because I came.
Oh, yeah.
Because I came in for the first Winterfest meeting. I didn't know what was happening. I was just like, I want to do something. And then I ended up being a volunteer for Winterfest, and then shifting through there. Elizabeth, you found the Four County Foundation internship program to have me co-funded, and then I was co-funded through that for a while. And then, let's see, that brought me to July, and then I worked volunteer for briefly in July, and until I was approved for part-time. So,
Well,
Been here
we're happy to have you.
yes, thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Madison, nicely done.
All right, moving on. Funding requests, we have none. So then we'll move to committee reports. Parking and Alley Committee, we have not met since our last meeting, so we've got nothing to report there. Next up, Volunteer and Event Committee Report, request for board liaison to committee. I think, Danielle, you kind of touched on this a little bit in our previous conversation, but I don't know, is that Danielle, is that you, who put that on there?
Well, you all had me put it on there from last month, after,
So last month we left
Oh,
it as
yeah, 'cause
long
it
as
was
it could
update-
change
right,
to
right, right.
Tuesday, which they graciously, everyone was totally fine with changing it to Tuesday. So I have been at every meeting since our last board meeting, including the evening meetings. So if it's still that you want to have a liaison, I'm still willing to do it, and I can be there every week.
So do
I
we
don't
need
know
a
if you want to
motion?
officially vote on that, and I can give you a little report of what's happened the last month. Is that what you want to do, Zach? Or are you thinking?
Well, the only thing is that conversation at the last meeting was before we started talking about these new subcommittees that we were forming. So that's why it caught me off guard, because it's a little different than what we talked at the workshop meeting about, so I don't know if it's as necessary anymore as it was, because all of that work now would be coming out of the subcommittee. But you're gonna be there anyway.
So are you suggesting this event subcommittee would fall under one of these pillars, and then that person would need to be there?
That's, I mean, that's
That
kind of
kinda-
how I envisioned the subcommittees
Okay.
working. That's why I was kind of surprised when we started talking about all these other subcommittees that were happening underneath
Or
the event planning.
Would the event subcommittee break up into these?
My thought was, based on the workshop and how I understood it, was that these pillars, as they were calling it, that's where we do all the work. So you could have multiple points of focus in each category, basically. So that way you weren't forming all these little subcommittees that turn into just this giant trail that nobody can keep track of and we
Yeah.
leave off, and there's never any progress. I thought this was kind of a way that it was designed to keep people consistently in these boxes so that we can get the work done in there. Unless I was misunderstanding.
That's what I understood too, but then would we be taking that event committee and basically kind of doing away with it and reassigning those people to one of these four?
I don't think reassigning or doing that, but the work could come out of, we can break up and work in smaller groups there, but it would still filter through one of these pillars, essentially.
It
But-
seems to me like it would filter under the promotion section of it.
Well, that's gonna be one big committee if that entire group is now, and the promotions committee is not just events though.
Well, as I understand it, this is board, these are board members in this.
Right. So
Within this.
what's this event committee on Tuesday doing then? Because promotions is not events necessarily, right? There's a lot under promotions that's not just events.
So can I make a suggestion, Zach?
Sure.
I think, Danielle and Madison and I are working well on this, right now. I mean,
Okay.
having just started. I mean, I can anticipate that to continue to stay the same. Until you all come up with how this is formed, and I imagine, based on the fact that it's already March, that this will probably be finalized probably closer to, budget, when the budget is adopted and whatnot. We could work under what Danielle is suggesting, so that we have this form and function to keep moving and to keep moving through this events calendar that you all approved in November, so we can keep functioning and not like just kind of hit a standstill.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then figure out how that goes when you all figure out how this whole dashboard work. Does that make sense?
Make a
Yeah.
fifth pillar.
Yeah, we're not limited
It's
to
a
four.
five-legged stool.
This is just the Ortonville one that we were looking at before. Okay, so for the sake of ease, I will make a motion to name Danielle Lee, DDA Board Liaison to the Volunteer and Event Committee.
Support.
We got a motion by Hayes, second by Poznanski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion
Thank you
carries.
for doing that.
Yeah, so I have a couple things if I could share. Can I share at this time from that?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Okay. So like I said, I have been going, since last meeting, and we have these focus groups now, which they seem to have been working really well. A couple things that have come up in these meetings is discussion about third-party vendors and food trucks. In light of what has happened recently with food trucks and third-party vendors, I'd like to have some discussion with this board about what we want to do. Do we want this to be, look, we're not doing food trucks, we're not doing third-party vendors, no matter what? Or do we want to say, for each event, we're going to look at it, does it make sense, and this board needs to vote on it? I certainly have my own opinion about whether they should or shouldn't be in town, but I think this board should make some decision on that before we start getting too far down the road of all of these events, because these volunteers are working very hard, and they spend a lot of time doing all of this work, and I don't want to see it for nothing, if we're gonna vote it down anyways.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have some discussion, I don't know if that's at this time, or if we need to, you know, put it on the next agenda, but I think we need to make some decision there.
Well, it comes down to policy, right? It's so that there's no ambiguity. You're not
Right.
approving certain people it's for some events and not allowing others in. You're not, there has to be some structure in place to say there's parameters and does it check these boxes
Right.
when we're looking for vendors or accepting vendors, before we take their money and put them into an event.
Or, could even have a set location.
Right, right, exactly. Does it mean that, you know, if we do have these vendors, they're always here, wherever that place is, so that it's not gonna change, there is no,
And what are we gonna do, if we do decide to, you know, what is our structure gonna be as far as fees?
right,
And what is the communication gonna be as far as, you know, our agreement with the vendor, and then also what is the village? You know, they still have to go to the village and
Right.
meet the village requirements.
Right.
Or are we just gonna say the DDA policy is such and we don't do vendors, you know?
Right.
But I agree that to be changing at every event when we meet once a month is gonna be very
Yeah.
tough for anyone to put on an event in town.
right,
So there has to be some decision made.
And I think we have to figure out where that specific policy fits into this.
Right.
What group is the one handling that? You're not drafting the policy, but you're bringing it to the board for approval for it to be adopted.
Right.
And that's how we carry forward, so we have that in place. Because I'm looking at, we've got to define these, the headings are fine, it's the details, once you get down into it.
Right.
It's like, where does this fall? Because there's a couple different places where I could see it. It could be organization, it could be economic vitality, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So we just have to figure out who's going to head that up. Because it's our responsibility in those subcommittees to do that work.
right. Well, I know, for the, 8-week concert series, there has been discussion about bringing food trucks in and possibly other vendors, craft-type vendors to be around that, where the concert series is. So,
Little clarification on that. We didn't talk about food trucks for the 8-week concert. It was more of boutique vendors. So we didn't talk about, for that 8-week concert series, we didn't talk about the food trucks for there
I think Tricia
specifically.
had mentioned it, so I just want to make some clarification. Be very
absolutely.
clear,
Sure.
we aren't going down that road.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would also ask, again, kind of going back to why? For what reason are we looking at doing this?
Doing, what, making policies or bringing
No.
food trucks?
Being
Bringing
food
food
trucks
trucks,
and
bringing
third-party
outside vendors in.
crafters.
Just what is
Well,
the,
it's a great question, because, you know, if we're not careful, we're gonna turn it into a flea market all around town when everybody comes to town. Oh, I can now go, cause my buddy owns a house here, my buddy owns a parking lot here, and I can put my stuff there, so that will come down to a village ordinance thing too, somehow, where we'll have to try to get the village to help help us, you know, put an ordinance in place.
well, there is an ordinance in place. So, you know, we can't just be out there, and I think that's where we got into a little bit of trouble with the Winterfest, is there was some confusion, or, you know, as far as, does our permit cover it, does it not cover it? But again,
Well,
what's the purpose?
But my understanding is, and perhaps Megan can quickly correct this, but, I mean, if somebody goes in and gets they can't tell a hot dog stand, hey, you can't set up on that Tuesday because it's Winterfest, and we don't allow other people in town on that Tuesday to do that. I don't think there's something that stops people from doing that if they go in and get a permit, is there?
I'd have to look at it.
Right. So that would be something we have to clear, so that's really important, and then the same thing, everybody's hanging their leather this or their.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and how are we picking and choosing who we're gonna let, you know? I like what you're selling, but I don't like what you're selling.
Right.
You know, I
Well,
mean,
Isn't there something in there about the approval of the people putting on the event? They have to approve the vendors, like, they can't
It does say
piggyback
that on
off
the
your
permit.
event. So they do have it, like, if we're hosting the event, technically, we could veto it if we choose to do so because of the verbiage of the ordinance.
Well,
But I
as long
could
as-
circumvent the event and just go right to the village and get a permit as well.
Well, but no, that's what I'm saying, at the village level, that there's, I could be mistaken.
Yeah, but you could just go to the village and get a license to, a permit to sell. You can just go online to the village.
I guess
without
we
the
need some
event.
clarification
So I
on
think
it.
what you're saying is, so there's a 3-month permit. And say you want to sit on a corner where there's a gas station for 3 months. And Winterfest happens to be during that time. You have that permit. You're not part of Winterfest, but you have a right to be there.
Mm.
Whereas opposed to specific vendors coming in just for Winterfest, or they want to come in and purchase a 3-month event permit, or the vendor permit for that one day, just to be on that street for that one day, or wherever.
Okay. Yeah, so.
It's a $150 permit for 3 months. Are you gonna pay that to come in for 5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, $150, what is, I mean,
Yeah.
if the crowds are there, it's not much. I
Yeah.
think that was kind of the
But yes,
thought
that,
process
it does say
behind.
on there that it, just because the village approves this, doesn't mean that you still have to come to the committee, because it's not always the DDA. There's other people that
People
throw
who host
events.
events.
That just means you're not part of the event.
Okay,
Yeah, but you could be out, yeah. Well, and I think, again, we just need to also look at for what cause. Like, I mean, if we can add value to an event without it being an outside vendor, what else could we do instead? Could we have balloon artists out there? Could we have face painters out there that's not a vendor, but could still have that experience? I think Deborah was saying it at one of the last meetings. What can we do that's an experience ad that's not a vendor?
But we're hiring them, right? That's,
Could be, could not be. I mean, we'd have to look. We've done really well with donations and things like that.
but what
So
I
we'd
mean,
have to
the
look
fact
into
is,
that.
but they're invited, they're an invited guest of it, versus a guy who just pulls up with a big barbecue truck and says, hey, I'm gonna sell ribs out of the back of my
Right.
truck for this afternoon,
Mhm.
and hot
Well,
chocolate.
and this
Right.
is to your point, Greg, of collaborating with the village. We could set, the village has yet to make a decision either way of a food truck zone. Because that could really place where you are or
Yeah,
where you
but
kind
that
of
could
can't go.
backfire on us too, because if we do an event in another part and they're all stuck over in the park, or they're all stuck down by my building or whatever, it just, you know, well, we'd love to have you down by there where all the action is, but, you know, our ordinance says you gotta be 3 blocks that way, then that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Can we just, I mean, I think Elizabeth is, you know, has a ton of skill. I've been fortunate to watch her last year and a half, whatever it's been, 2 years. Can we charge her with putting together her best ideas and bring them to us, and we work with those ideas and let her start looking at other communities, how they handle this, you know, what are they doing in Royal Oak, the car thing and the Apple Festival, all these different things, how do they handle, outside vendors coming in?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, like you were saying, in our training, that it all came back to, what does this do? Does this go back to our mission? Do these vendors support the mission of whatever it is we're trying to achieve at this event? And what exactly is that? And do these vendors achieve that for us?
You know, and the answer to that, Megan, in the purest sense, and I really learned this from Zach on a couple of things we worked on last year. If you really look at what we're trying to do, the betterment of the entire village, and that's what, or the entire DDA, it does these things, I mean, with the right stuff. Just because one business might get hurt a little bit from something, it doesn't mean it's not better, you know, for the entire DDA area. So, I was not really in favor of how the last time this went down with the food trucks and all that, because, well, you're like, hey, yeah, some businesses might, but overall, does it draw more people? The people that come here, are they more excited about it? Yeah, does it maybe hurt one business or another a little bit, but overall, it enhances the image, because some could argue a 300-person race coming through their downtown is just disruptive and whatever else, but you know what? Overall, it helps everybody, and that's what we have to look at as a DDA.
Well,
And
the
I
one
will say
thing,
for myself, when I was looking at the food trucks thing, it wasn't just one, it was 11 different businesses. And I didn't get to talk to all of them myself, but that's what I looked at. I looked at a majority of these dining establishments have come forward and asked for it not to be there. I would like us to look at it as a long-term thing. what do we want to do with this? Can we make it work? Is it helpful? Can we then explain to these 11, different business dining places, this is what we think will work, so that everybody kind of has buy-in to it?
And my thought process has always been this: it's not about what happens that day necessarily. It's
Sure.
not about what happens at the event. If our focus is to drive this event so that the people come to town and see you next year at Winterfest, that's not the goal. We want them to come back when there's not food trucks, when there's not 5Ks, when there's not concert series. We need to keep them coming back to Romeo, and, maybe that first day out with a different vendor. I'll use my store as an example. If there's a t-shirt vendor out there and they went and they bought their t-shirt there at the vendor, and, but maybe they were walking past my window and they see, oh man, there's a whole lot of shirts in there too. The next time I come back to Romeo, I'm coming there. Did I lose out on the one sale? Yeah, but I'll make up for it in the long run. We want them, the repeat business is huge for this downtown, and we just, to be honest with you, we have not gotten there in a very long time, and I think that's what this board's job is to do, is to get us there. And that's where, to your point, we need to determine what this is gonna look like. I don't think the answer is no outside vendors, but I think it's this board's job to figure out those parameters so that it works best for all of us. So, that's the work that I think we'll do. I think we should have something in place.
Yeah.
It can't be a free-for-all, but
So can we have Elizabeth start on that and work with somebody who wants to be involved in it and bring some ideas?
absolutely. If you, because I know you go to a lot of different and you go to these, what is it, MDC?
MDA.
MDA. So, when you're talking to these other DDAs, what do they do when they have outside vendors that want to come? I think you may have actually.
We do. We have some of this data already, and, these surveys that are here, there's a lot of meat in here, and I think, and we're still on a committee report, agenda item, just as a reminder. This board has asked us to do these surveys, and so the data that's contained in there, how do you want to kind of take that apart, and what do you do with this? Do you want to hear what, do you want to take what people are saying?
Yeah.
This is what we want to see, or this is what we don't want to see. Do you take that information and do something with it or not?
I
So
think
we
it's a
can-
part of it.
We can put it in there
Yeah,
as
I think
well.
it's a part of it.
I'll tell you, it's probably not going to happen by the April meeting.
That's fine.
Right.
But we'll definitely get to that. But we will need, to Danielle's point, we're going to need some direction just in the events coming up. And I think, Madison's done a phenomenal job in just a year. I've been here just under a year and a half, and yes, events is not all we do. There's a whole lot more that we've done in the last 16, 17 months. But it's been part of it, for sure.
All right, I think we're ready to move on in the agenda. All right, first up, line item A, under unfinished business, GFL waste hauler service and rubbish millage.
Well, that was just, the only thing from that came is that you all had us, we were.
Yeah, I think I don't think Elizabeth has any more involvement in that. In my opinion, we did the reconnaissance with the accounting firm. I think it's really, the fact is that the folks who are paying the property taxes, and that may be something personally that, the building owners, Zach, I know you own one, Carl, you do, and myself, and, have a very specific interest in that. So I don't think it has a lot now to do with the DDA, and I don't think there's much more Elizabeth can really do about it. She, I think, shined a light on something that was beginning to be talked about, I think, a few months ago, right? This isn't like new. It's just now that we have the information, the dollar amounts and the real deal, what it is. And it's a fair amount of money every year that, folks have paid. Now, that parlays into the dumpster issue, which I think we really all should get very busy on, because that is a legitimate thing that we need to find the money, figure out how to do it. If it's everybody that's paying for this trash pickup that they're not getting, but yet they're paying for it, if we can somehow put together a formula to direct that to a piggy bank that then builds these dumpster corrals and then gives people access to them you know, building owners, then I think we have something there. But it's a big issue, and I don't know, it's just not something Elizabeth needs, I don't think, to spend her time on.
Was there a dollar amount that
Yeah, there
came out of?
was. I know when I looked at my own tax bill, and it's, do you, because I know I had my office send it over to me, but it was several $100s a year, more than a couple, and it might have been a few, you know, like $300-400 a year. It's my memory that I myself would be paying, and as an example, based on the value of my one building there, I use
Okay.
only one tax bill. So, yeah,
I
mean,
wasn't sure if you had like a collective for the whole CBD, like a,
no, I mean, we
like a
have to work
number.
with the village folks there on how many, you know, how many people don't get the service that are paying for it, but there's, you know, there's gotta be at least, I'd say 100, you know, 100 at least 75 buildings that are valued somewhere around mine, so take 75 times, you know, that,
Yeah, we did, there was my notes from that date, Greg, if you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, you can, yeah. I didn't
So
know
if
there-
your property value, for example, and I might say this wrong, Megan, if you know something different, if I'm saying this wrong, let me know. So if your property is valued at 200,000, the mill is 2.056, and, if your SEV is valued at 200,000, that would be 413.12 a year.
Yeah, so, and how many buildings do you think falls in that area? Carl, Zach, you probably have a good idea when you go up and down, if there's, I mean, just if there's 75 of them, or even 50 of them at, you know, $300, that's 15,000 a year, and I'm probably way under. So, you know, you're collecting $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year that could then go to, you know, you could pop a dumpster corral every year at 30 grand, probably,
Right.
or close to it.
but at this point, we're just kind of closing the door on that?
I think for Elizabeth's efforts, there's
Okay.
so much more she can be doing, but now we have to, every individual has to take it up with really the village. It's their own individual fight, saying, hey, you know, I'm paying this money, where's my service? And then, I don't know if the village will come up with a way to resolve it or what will happen, but I think Elizabeth has enough to do. But it certainly has affected the DDA and has brought some light on it, which is good for all of us. We just gotta figure out how to go forward with it.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
Yeah, glad.
So am I taking off of the unfinished business then, moving forward?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think there's any more discussion
Unless
that's
somebody
necessary.
disagrees with what I said, I don't know what more can she do for us?
No, I think it's
It's
yeah.
a personal issue between business and building owner, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's a village
Yeah.
issue. We don't collect the tax, we don't, so
Right.
that's, yeah.
Good reconnaissance, thank you.
Okay, moving on, line item B,
Bless
Starkweather Peace Polls. Grace, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. We good?
Yep.
Okay, so, I contacted Megan because I wasn't sure how to proceed with this. So, last year, we got a Michigan Municipal League grant for $500 for an art project in town. And we are doing, peace poles, which are 4x4 treated lumber poles with some sort of finial on the top. They're 8 foot tall, but will be sunk 2 feet into the ground. Dave Pierce, the president at Starkweather, who's still really active with Boy Scouts, was going to have them dig the hole and sink them with cement. So I have 7 poles. I have 4 being worked on by Lisa Joseph at the high school, Romeo High School, with her students, which is really cool because they're each doing like each student's doing like a little band on there. I think there's about 30 students that are involved in that. And we have a group of artists from Starkweather that's working on them as well. So we have 7 total. We talked about putting 1 at 2 in the Starkweather Alley, 1 on the north side by our carriage house, 1 on the south side, which I'm not exactly sure what location. We talked about putting 1 over, Sarah Casper, who's doing 1, she would like hers over by her, what's the name of, the proper name of the alley? Is it
Parker
Parker Alley? I call it Sushi Alley, but, okay. So, she's got her sculpture over there, so, she wants her peace pole over by her artwork. And, Kelly Stevens at one time had talked about putting one at the Chamber of Commerce towards the sidewalk where she's got that side yard. So that leaves us with, that's 4, it leaves us with 3. And at one time, we had talked about putting them on the around the parking lot perimeter in the southwest alley behind the businesses there. Because you have that strip of trees and bushes. There's not a whole lot there. It's smallish, so you could put something linear there relatively easily, I think. But I wanted some direction from you because our goal was to have them done by April 1st. They will be. And then we have to, of course, have Miss Dig come out and, make arrangements for us to actually dig where we would like to. And our goal originally was to have them ready for Arbor Day, but since I found out that the Arbor Day committee is moving out of the district and these have to be within the district because of the grant, that maybe we'll be more involved with the new spring event that Madison mentioned.
What
because
about the library? Would they take one?
That's a possibility.
Or the new
Because that's
park
still the
benches.
district.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm sure
Is the
Claire
new
would love one.
parking lot on
yeah,
Church
that's a
Street?
good possibility.
May I ask, what is a peace pole? I'm sorry.
So the intent behind it is to have just peaceful images on a structure, on a.
So painted on it?
It's all painted, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really beautiful artwork, there, flowers, trees, wildlife. One of our artists likes to do fish, so it's got fish on all sides of it.
So
This-
obviously, they couldn't be construed political in any way, then. These are totally apolitical type posts that are painted with different,
Well, I'm gonna tell you the absolute truth, I haven't seen each pole yet, because the artists have been working on them. We could do that, I can have photos submitted to Elizabeth
Yeah,
if you wish.
I'm just curious, I've never heard of them. I mean, it doesn't mean anything that I haven't heard of them, but.
Well, when Grace brought this to me, what was this, in the fall, I don't remember when it was,
yeah.
and when we started talking about this, we started Googling all of this, and I didn't see any that were,
Yeah.
had any type of controversy or anything. Sometimes there's mosaics, like with old plates and tiles or whatnot, and so they're quite creative.
So it's artwork,
Designs.
basically, it's just, yeah.
I know there are some peace symbols on there. I've seen one that has fish and then peace symbols.
So
So-
Grace, are you just looking for direction, are you just requesting direction
Right.
for the location of
Placement.
the remaining 3?
Yes, or you just suggested now the library, so that would leave us with just 2.
Do we want to try to make that decision tonight, or is that, or do we want to look at a map?
Or that's something that
Do you
you could
want-
defer to the beautification
That's true.
focus group.
When you
know,
need-
who's
when do
been
you need an
working
answer
intimately
by?
with that.
Well, we wanted.
April 1st?
I would say, yeah, because that gives us time to get Miss Dig involved and,
How about down in that parking lot behind Marty's? It's just such a lost cause.
Yeah, there's not much there.
Maybe put all 3 of them there.
In the
next to the battery
parking lot?
charger.
oh, the parking
No,
lot
not just in
behind,
the flower boxes around it.
Just to kind of extend the reach a little bit, so
Right.
they're not all,
That is a DD and it's side
Talking about
of
the Bailey
the.
Street lot?
on
Oh,
30,
the
off of
parking
32,
lot. Oh, I'm
off of
sorry,
St. Clair.
behind. Gotcha, okay.
Off of St. Clair you're talking about?
yeah.
Yeah, across from the River God kind of.
Yeah, that's a nice location.
Go in there for sure.
So we've got library, Bailey Street parking lot,
Chamber?
Chamber.
was that?
Parker.
The sou- you- that
Parker
southwest
Alley.
quadrant
How
behind the
about
office
that
quadrant?
parking lot by the?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
So you were saying the southwest parking lot behind the,
That was the original thought we had.
at that very corner where they used to have that Ford
Mhm.
placard, I don't think that's there any longer.
That's correct, yeah, it's
so maybe
gone.
to fill back in
It's
that.
coming back
Is it coming back?
in the park.
No, in the parking lot
Oh,
behind the
sorry.
pub on the southwest quadrant.
That placard?
It should be coming back. Those are historic. We should be redoing those.
Oh, I didn't know why it was gone. I thought maybe,
I think it fell off.
oh, okay.
And I think it's like sun bleached and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was faded.
But there's probably room in it. There's that big rock garden in there with all that space in that corner. if there
There's a
really
lot of
is
space
anything,
there, yeah. Well, would you rather me concentrate on the on the parking lot over by Marty's, or would you rather me concentrate on the parking lot over by Youngers, or do one on each? We could do one on
I
each.
think one on each, that'd be my,
I agree,
Yeah,
one
I
on
think if
each.
they're- Yeah, spread it out a
Yeah.
little bit.
Okay, all right, well, I think that takes care of them all then.
And that's why I asked you to come to this committee. They needed to be centralized in the DDA,
Yes.
so I thought this was better for
Yep.
Are
for
these
discussion.
things that can then be redecorated or repainted like 2 years later by another group of kids or something, or?
Possibly,
That's kinda cool.
but it's kind of hard to, it's easier for them to work on it when it's lying flat,
Understood.
you know?
They're just like-
You know, I don't think they're gonna be there forever, because it's wood, you know? But, you know, I know one of the goals that Elizabeth's had is to have public art in downtown Romeo, and it's a pretty cheap, effective way to get some downtown art around.
I think it'd
And-
be great with the Arbor Day and the whole downtown stuff to do a peace pole walk and make a little map.
Yeah, we have a little map of where they all are, because
Yeah.
I know the kids at the high school are already asking where theirs is gonna be placed, so they
Cool.
can go by and look at it.
Yeah.
So are you planning these to be installed then by?
By the Arbor Day celebration was my original
Okay, so that
goal.
could go
Yeah.
into the.
Yes.
Okay,
which would be
great.
perfect.
Yeah.
If you get me specific locations, we can start dropping the misdigs in for all of these spots to be.
Right, well, I figured I'll go around with Dave, he's out of town right now, and we'll look at the spots and make an X, and,
Could they ever
you
do
know.
anything where they're progressive and sort of encourage like the movement to the next one and the discovery of the next one? Like, you know, you found the one, like, go find the other one now, and that will encourage and sort of push people to maybe
That's a cool idea,
find them, almost like one of those scavenger.
like a hunt kind of thing.
Something like thing, so maybe ask the people, there's something, artwork that can be in there that encourages, hey, your next one's, you know, 400 steps, that way, you know, whatever, where the sun sets or something, and they go, oh, I gotta go, and they go find the next
That's a
one.
cute.
Well, I will say Macomb County does have an art map, and I could place this on their digital art map, like we did with the mural. So it gives people something to look for when they come into town. And I did want to mention also, I just found out, do you remember the letter R we talked about?
Yeah.
Did not get the grant.
No, bummer.
This year.
Pardon me, this year.
This year.
Right,
I don't
right.
remember that, refresh my memory. There was
We talked about I had an artist that wanted to construct a metal letter R and have horizontal bars on it. And we talked about possibly placing it in Parker Alley. And people could, like the Lovers Bridge, come and put items on it,
Yeah.
like keychains or
a
locks.
lock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what do they cost?
His cost would be around $2,000. And
We
we
were
were
gonna help
looking for a
fund.
$1,000 grant through the Michigan Arts Council. And it was a mini grant project, and we weren't approved. So you had allocated 500, and Starkweather had allocated 500.
Well, call me next week if you want, if you know who I am or what my
Mhm.
office is, just, I'd like to talk about that more.
Okay.
It seems something that's reasonable that could be figured out.
Basically, we just wanted to make sure the artist had his costs covered. And he's the same artist that did the Good Fortune gong and the giraffe that's in our yard at Starkweather.
Beautiful art. Really beautiful.
All set?
Thank you, Grace.
Okay, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to new business. Line item A, 2022-2023 budget amendment. We have a recommendation to approve the 2022-2023 budget amendment in the amount of $303,359 as presented. And if we've got the background here, based on projections for revenues and expenditures that can be calculated at this time based on current knowledge, a net zero balance amendment is presented for approval. A line item budget is also presented as support documentation for the amendment for approval above. The line item budget is for internal purposes only. The original budget was adopted based on category rather than a line item, and as such, the amendment is presented in the same manner for consideration. Do we have a motion?
question.
Sure.
So I know that $20,000 was for office renovation, and then it also has on here plus 1,300 for computer service subscriptions. So that's outside the $20,000, correct? The $20,000 is just for office renovations. I know we're just kind of moving money around, but, yes?
Tell me, I'm sorry, where are you seeing the 13?
On the budget amendment, the Plant Moran,
Mm-hmm.
it says 20,000 for office renovations and 1,300 for computer service subscriptions.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find where you see the 1,300. You're on this one right here?
Yeah, the
Okay.
notes,
Yep.
the note side,
Ah, under there, gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
so the 1,300 is outside of the office renovations. The 1,300 is, I'm guessing, just an annual thing for office, or for computer service subscriptions?
That is my, understanding. I mean,
Okay.
I don't have that. She put the notes on there for,
That wouldn't have anything to do with office renovations, because had you not moved your office, that subscription thing would still be there, assuming, right?
I believe that has to do, with some of the Plant Moran expenses that were,
Okay.
that were not, originally budgeted for.
Okay.
Because their services came after the budget was
Got it.
adopted,
Got it.
because of the circumstances with our former accountant.
Okay.
But isn't that already noted as the 3,600?
That
Right
is my
above it?
understanding, yes.
So I guess, but Danielle's asking specifically about the 1,300. What is that a subscription for? Is it like, antivirus protection?
It could be part of,
storage?
QuickBooks, but I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I can't answer that.
Okay.
On that, actually, on that same line, to be clear, the way I see this, 20,000 office renovation plus 1,300 computer service, looks to me it's under 700 employee expenses. Shouldn't that be office expenses? Or is it just the way this is printed out?
I think it's under office expenses. The amendment, the 21.3,
Yes, it's not under employee expenses.
the 3,600
is
above
Plant
it.
Moran under employee expenses, and the
Right.
20 plus the 13 is under office expenses. Yeah, 100. I believe that's the 13, that is, in regard, it was moved from another category because we had $1,200 budgeted for, when our contract with Think Street Media expired. It was $100 a month, so it was budgeted $1,200.
So it's website maintenance
Yes,
essentially. It's,
mhm,
okay,
that's my understanding, yes.
okay. That makes more sense.
And the 1,800 for legal invoice is separate from the 22 that we already talked about earlier? It's a separate legal invoice?
No, that would be because we had, there is a.
We only budgeted 500.
Got
Right,
it.
so that's in addition to balance it
Okay.
out from that invoice.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Tar. Do we have a second?
One second.
Second by Lee. Elizabeth, can you do a roll?
Sure, Tar,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes?
St. Laurent,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes?
Rose,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Poznanski.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries. All right.
That will make Danielle very happy. Has she had her baby yet? Have you heard? She's very due, so she was hoping to get this done for you all before
Not this
that
Danielle.
happens. No, not this one.
Not this one.
All right, next, under new business, we have 4 County Community Foundation.
Yeah, so I just have, just kind of an oral presentation to give you, if you will, in our move and whatnot, and of course, because we've been involved with Kathy Dickens as the executive director for Fort County, when she learned of our new space, and of course, some of you know, Greg Briner, he happens to also be on the Fort County, Community Foundation Board, and he's done some volunteer work for us, and has done some stuff through, Greg kind of saying, hey, he might be able to help with that, so he's done some work for us as a volunteer. But they are already working, Kathy has been working extensively to create a co-working space in another community. Zach and I had the pleasure of sitting down with her, right, about 3 weeks ago, probably?
Sure.
I know carpet was getting
Yeah.
ripped out at the same time, so
Sounds
it was
about right.
somewhere around there. And so she's interested, if the board is interested in possibly having a co-working space there for them, or having at least a conversation of something like that. They would, so like to know what might be intended. Some of what they could help bring to the DDA would be to assist Madison and I in some grant writing potentials and some possibilities there. There is a possibility for the space to be rented, so that income could kind of help offset. You know, I would at some point love to be able to give her some more hours. There's a lot of stuff that can be done, and the finances brought in through grants and through donations, through whatnot, but it takes money to, you know, you have to spend money to make money, right? And some of, also of what she has to offer too, potentially I should say, they have a part-time accountant who is possibly interested in additional work. So this could be a way, going into the next fiscal year, we could save some money by moving our accounting back in, and as much as Plant Moran has been phenomenal, they're quite expensive.
Sure.
But they're kind of holding a stop on everything, but they were potentially going to come and prepare something, present something to you tonight, because there's an opportunity through the state, through some different levels of fundings and grants. The deadline's March 15th. Not realistic for us to flip around and try to make some sort of a deadline. It's just
Sure.
impossible at this point. And so there's a potential there, and Fort County, I'm sure all of you have been touched by them in one level or another. I think they give money into the village as well. If I remember correctly, they help fund some of the repair
Excuse
at the
me,
porch.
Elizabeth, are you just asking if they can come in and use one of those offices there to conduct maybe a donor interview or donor meeting, or
A satellite office is what she's interested in.
Okay,
Yeah.
and does she wanna, are you expecting they pay for it then? Is that the question? Like, you sublease it, and does our lease even allow us to sublet to someone else?
Sure, so it doesn't allow it at the moment, but this is something, I know People-Driven Credit Union, Steve Schmidt is planning on coming to the April board meeting and speaking a little bit more to you all about how they're excited about the partnership and whatnot. But what Kathy is looking for is the board interested in some sort of a relationship there? Because Fort County would love to have a satellite office somewhere in the Romeo area. Now, it doesn't mean full-time, it doesn't mean every
Sure.
day, but how could they want to see more businesses thrive in downtown.
I think
How
it would
could
be
that happen?
fantastic. I mean,
I
that,
agree.
It's a reasonable, I mean, it's normal, we'd just be a good neighbor to them. I mean, that's
Mhm.
just, I
think
think
it's a
it'd be
win-win.
almost a perfect use. That's
Yeah.
what that space is for, in my opinion.
I agree.
I
That
don't
makes
even know
us
if
happy,
paying for
yay.
it is- I don't know if paying for it is necessary. We're getting it for free, why would they pay us? And if we gotta sell, I don't know how it all works, but that's for you to figure out, but.
yeah, I think we'd have to cross that bridge when we get to it, but as far as being interested, I don't see why not. Yeah, absolutely. I think those kind of working relationships and filling voids that we don't have.
we need.
Yeah, otherwise it is going to cost us in the long run to go after those things. If there's an opportunity to learn more about grant money so that we're not spending these tax dollars and we're getting matching funds and being able to take on
Well,
more
they do
projects,
it.
it's
I
great.
sat on that, I sat at Fort County Foundation Board for, I think, 8 years, and Greg took my spot after that. We would hold all those board meetings up at the Elmont, at the CSB Bank there. I would tell her one of the requests would be that, they'd hold an annual, we used to do an annual board meeting out at the hunting ranch in Metamora, and we do these different places. She should you got a big space up there, they can take it over for, bring people to the community, bring them down here, and let all those board members that are from Dryden and Elmont and Emily City, Armada, they've got Richmond, we had a board member, they all come, bring them in there, have her, one of the stipulations, does at least 2 board meetings there a year to get those people here, and I don't know, that's what we need.
I think it's great, and I think we talked about it at the last meeting, John and Marty, and had brought it up about, and I think with the incubator program
Yeah.
too, is the upstairs, but the credit union does have some input in how we use the space, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yes,
at
correct.
next month's meeting,
If we were to
they'll,
go into any type of a any type of an arrangement that would require some sort of legal documentation, the use of keys, that type of a thing, that is something that, yeah, that would
yeah,
have to come.
but we'd be
definitely
able
come.
to talk with them next month.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Awesome.
it probably won't happen when he does his presentation, but yeah, for
Right,
sure.
but that would
those
be
are
at least a
things-
jump-off point.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
great.
yes.
My input would be, I fully agree with everything you're saying, and that's a great use of the space. I just would wanna make sure we do, as a DDA, receive some sort of a benefit, whether it's shared accounting, whether it's accounting, whether it's counseling, advice, or what have you. We have to be sensitive to, there are, and I'm not one of them, building owners in the village that are or trying to lease their office space.
True.
So to just simply give office space.
Agreed.
You know, we have to be careful. We have to be sensitive to the other businesses in town that have open space, plus we all wanna fill all
Yeah.
of our.
No, there needs to be a-
spaces. So
I agree.
As long as we have a mutual benefit that we're gonna get from these people,
Yeah.
I could see that would be great.
And
Yeah.
I think it
Just
needs to
giving
be
office space, we have to
tangible
be
too.
careful.
It needs to be a tangible benefit.
Right.
Just a relationship I don't think is enough. I
Yeah,
think it needs to be a tangible benefit.
Keep in mind the open offices that people are trying to lease currently.
Valid point, I agree.
All right, so, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't need a motion or anything like that, I just wanted to have an open conversation on that.
All right,
Okay,
moving on, we have a website management proposal from Verona Creative Marketing. Just as a little bit of background, we had already budgeted $100 a month for updates to our website. I know we've been having some difficulty in getting the site updated. That's why we're looking to other resources. Verona Creative is a company that actually bid out, I think, John, you brought the bid to the DDA originally when they had the website proposal out there. We opted to go with another company, but Verona Creative Marketing, who is in town, they offered to honor that price. So we're really just kind of adopting a new company to help us with work that we've already approved as a board. So that's just a little bit of background. So it's the same amount, a motion to approve the marketing proposal from Verona Creative in an amount not to exceed $1,200 per year.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry, jumped on your question. Can I
And
ask
we
her?
do have her here present, so.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Oh.
so Emily would be
Love
happy
that.
to speak to this. She's been patiently waiting.
Yeah.
We don't usually last this long before we get to new business, but.
Thank you.
But do you want to ask the question
I
before?
do want to ask a question. I'm just curious how much it would be for unlimited changes, and maybe you don't have that number right. Okay. Okay. And I'm not proposing that we do that right at this moment, but I would like to know it for maybe budgeting for next year. You know, our next budget, to have that information so that having that flexibility next year, being able, I mean, I'm thinking, you know, you're putting, the agenda and all of the information on the website at least once a month.
Yes, we do that internally. We're able to access that.
Okay, and would you still have that access with
Yes.
this? You would still be able to do that part? Okay.
It's the tough stuff that we're like, it's 8 hours later and, you
Okay.
know, yeah.
No,
this
that's
is-
really good, that's really good to know, because if you can do some things
Mm-hmm.
on your own, because we pay quite a bit more than this, and we get unlimited changes, so I personally think this is a fabulous price, and thank you for, keeping that low for us.
So she was gonna present to you as to how we came up with this amount. So is it all right with you? Emily, come on forward and you wanna do your, presentation.
No, I
Yeah.
just,
So what, this is Emily Jenna.
hi, everyone.
Hello.
I've met some of you before, and others I've heard of, and I'm excited to be in the same room as you. But no, I've been, I'm a resident of Bruce Township, and we have always loved this area my whole life, and really wanted to be working with Romeo. We actually, a little side story really quick before I divulge into this. We actually came up with the name of Verona Creative Marketing as a slight tribute to the city of, or the village of Romeo, Verona being the location of Romeo and Juliet. So this is just something we've always wanted to do. But we I chatted with Elizabeth. I have a good understanding of what your needs are for the website, both immediate and moving forward, and really wanted to be able to offer our best services and price to you. I had a meeting with my team, and we've all taken a cut to be able to make this happen for you. We have extensive experience in all aspect of marketing, not just with website development, but with SEO development, social media, brand managing, Google Ads, absolutely anything and everything. If you wanted a billboard, those are things we can do for you as well. So I was just looking to hopefully be able to help you any way that we can. We have a quick turnaround time. We try very hard to be responsive in a timely manner. So hopefully some of the issues you've had will be things of the past moving forward.
So,
Thank you.
adding to what Emily said, if you look at page, her fourth page in where it shows the actual value of the discounted DDA rate, in us talking about this and her coming to our new space, and it's in the action item sheet, you know, we talked about how could we do social media workshops for businesses in town, because, you know, I've sat down with individual business owners and go, okay, this is how you create an event. This is how you post things to a story, get it connected to Facebook and whatnot. And Emily's willing to come in and do those as part of this to say, maybe have these workshops, maybe initially it's every other month. You know, and so could she get some business off of that? Yeah, probably. But even if someone were to come and get some free advice and whatnot, that's what we're downtown for, right?
Yeah, that's
Is to
huge.
help our businesses thrive. So this is part of the reason why she's giving us such a huge discount, as so many other businesses have done in getting this new space launched. So did I speak to that?
You did.
Well, okay.
Well, it worked. If you can call me, we've got to tune up some of our stuff, and we've used Think Street in the past, and they got us set up originally, but I appreciate your willingness to help, but if you could reach out to us
Sure.
sooner than later, look at our website, it's a side note, but, yeah, we need it.
So you got one
Sure,
already,
happy
look
to.
at that.
Yeah, look at that here.
If I may, a few questions. First, I guess, Elizabeth, when does our Think Street expire, our Think Street contract?
So
with
we
Murphy
signed, that's a great question. So we signed that contract, if memory serves, because I don't have it in front of me. I believe we signed that in December or January of '22. And so technically, it would have already expired, but he agreed to extend that 1 year at the completion of the website, which was April. So really, we're already,
Okay.
and we haven't been charged anything additional yet.
Well, then that's probably the next answer. Have we not gotten anything that we have paid for? You're saying you've had difficult communicating since November. What, since November, have we not gotten that we should have or that we've paid for? Anything?
There's nothing that we haven't received that was paid for in that the initial contract. What I will say is, Sean and his team, which I think is maybe one other person, have gone above and beyond what the contract included. I mean, like probably more than double, if not tripled, what was originally quoted in that. For what we paid originally,
Sure.
we have an incredible, and that was one of the things that Emily commented on, is you guys have a beautiful site, and we do. But because it's and I asked her, I said, you know, is WordPress? She's like, yes, that's what you want, but it's quirky. There's a lot of things that are difficult to do. Madison knows how to do some basic things, so every time you see the website on there, or a photo uploaded from by the way, I need your pictures for the board. But there's a lot of things we can't do. We don't know how to change the video on it. We don't know how to change some of the other headers. There was a couple of things you mentioned.
And there were a couple of the forms that you were talking about.
Yes,
with how to
changing some of the
update
forms.
forms around, which
Mhm.
that in itself, you need I'm being sarcastic, but you need a computer science degree to figure out how to work that.
Yeah.
But no, it's, WordPress you're gonna use that for the rest of, it's gonna live beyond us. But it's just, it's very quirky, as Elizabeth was saying. There's a lot of back-end coding that goes into it. It's not as user-friendly for the average person as opposed to like a Squarespace or a Wix. You do have to have a little bit of an IT experience with that.
All right, so you guys keep answering my questions before I ask them. Emily, regarding the current setup, the current website, it can always be cumbersome working on somebody else's build. I don't know this website. any problem with that? You're
I don't
telling me you're
foresee-
fully comfortable with how it's
I'm
built and you can.
Very
take it from there.
comfortable. Our web developer is you're gonna just fall in love with her. She's incredibly talented and very smart, and she'll have no issues with this.
So this motion, as I'm reading it, I'm not exactly sure if Elizabeth wrote this or who, Zach wrote this. This is through our fiscal year? So what we're talking about right now is through
Yes, so if
June
you go
23. We're
to,
gonna do this for the next, how many months?
Yeah, I see what
3
you're saying,
months?
John.
We're gonna, we're hiring Emily for 3 months at the moment, until we have our budget and we plan this out. Is that correct? Am I reading it correctly?
but it's 1,200 per fiscal year, the way that we talked about this. So from now until June 30, we're authorizing, because there's some big changes that have to be done. I mean, they're not as big as building a new website, but they're costly to do. So that, so she worked with it. I said, this is my budget, and she goes, ooh, and then she
Okay.
figured it out.
So-
So then it would be 1,200 for the next year, so it would be $100 a month. So 1,200 from now until
Right,
June 30.
for the next, what is that, 3 months?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're gonna do $400 for the next, per month, for the next 3 months.
Well, the impression I was under, it would be for the one page with the, and I don't have it in front of me,
Yep,
forgive
that's
me, but
fine,
with the lot of bullets of different.
Yep,
That
where it
was,
says
I
the
think,
$700.
$700.
Yeah, okay, so that was that, and then from there, once those are complete, then it's $100 a month. But that $700 one, we should be able to get that done for you in the immediate future.
Because it's not really the ongoing updates.
Yes,
It's a little
like
more cumbersome.
one-time
and-
thing.
Yeah,
So
and
you should be under the $1,200, according to my math, and I majored in journalism, but you should be under the $1,200 come June, if that makes sense.
which is money that we actually should have been spending all this time to
Right.
keep it
So-
going.
Yeah.
The numbers that were just thrown out was more like $1,000 for the next 3 months. So I would like to make a motion, marketing proposal from Verona Creative Marketing, the amount not to exceed $1,200. But I don't think this should say per fiscal year. I think for the next, or through our fiscal year, maybe through June 2023.
Through fiscal year 22, 23,
I think
or
that
June
might-
30?
For the balance
I
of
mean,
this
it's-
fiscal year,
I'd like to
right?
say that, so I'd like to do the full 1,200, which is what we would have been spending anyways, if I'm reading this correctly, even though it's more than what Emily, I think, was just indicating, as long as we specify through June, and then we will revisit this in our budget.
So,
If that-
Do we, so instead of,
You're just clarifying that it's through June 2023, correct?
And it's gonna be
$1,200.
$1,200 between now and
Yeah.
June 23.
isn't that basically what it says already, though?
That wasn't clear to me until you just explained it.
you could say fiscal year 22, 23, but then it's not, but then it has to be renewed.
Yeah, like
At
how.
July 1st, that's why it says per fiscal year.
Right, can we
Because
make it a longer contract?
Well, but I think per one of Danielle's initial question, we may want to actually
Budget for more.
have more services than just simply this $100 a month.
So
We
you
don't
could,
know
you could
until-
see it potentially changing if the need be, like, it could end up being $1,500 after we kind of see what this entails and,
Right.
there's been an opportunity to kind of work through it.
And I think actually Emily might need to agree if we're gonna do this for a full year, starting right now. I don't know
Which
if
was
that's
your
how you're
proposal, right?
reading it.
I'm sorry.
Which was your proposal, correct?
Yeah, it was through June of this year, I
Right.
believe, yes.
So we don't really have a proposal from Emily
For
after
after
2023.
June, yes.
Okay.
There's no proposal
That's
yet
when
for
it gets
that.
expensive, right, Emily?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Oh, yes,
So I
yes.
think if we just simply add to the wording that's here, not to exceed the amount of
All
1,200 per fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Is
is
that your
that-
motion?
That's your motion? All
So if that makes sense now, that's
Yep.
my motion, yes.
I'll second.
right, we have a motion by Rose, second by Lee. Elizabeth, can you do a roll?
Can we
Sure,
ask a
Rose?
question?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, discussion?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to know, so every question I had listed, you've already answered, except the items that we're able to do ourselves, outside of what you were doing, what do we do ourselves on the website?
Currently?
Or, well, within the new program?
what we're already doing ourselves, we would continue to do,
Which is,
which is uploading the draft minutes, the approved minutes,
so
the
minutes.
informational, yes, the agendas, the 2 informational meetings a year. We have a downtown management report. We've been able to put that on there.
Okay.
A few other documents.
So document upload, okay.
Yeah, documents.
Because our agenda wasn't on for this meeting.
Did that not get on there for this meeting? Okay.
It'll be on tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Elizabeth, can you do a roll?
Sure. Rose?
Yes?
Lee?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Tar?
Yes.
St. Laurent?
Yes.
Brant?
Yes.
And did I miss anybody? Nope. Okay.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Romeo DDA, new office and PDCU grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony, May 18th, 2023.
Yes, I have an update on that,
Okay.
actually. Because that is, that date did not end up working out for Emily and Steve. And so, because they want this to be a joint grand opening and they're gonna, share the costs on that as well, any other day the previous week or that Monday or Tuesday could work. I could flush those dates out and get back to you in April, but it would be nice, especially for some VIPs, to be able to kind of get the word out ahead of time.
I think whatever you want to confirm and work out with them is fine with this board. I don't want to
Okay.
speak for everybody, but I think, yeah.
Okay, then I will do that, and I'll get that back to you guys next week. Perfect.
Okay,
All
moving
right.
on. Village of Romeo event permit for the suggested name. Spring has sprung in downtown Romeo, April 29th, 30th, 2023.
So bringing that before you because as the calendar sets, and my phone's acting funny, if we don't talk about that this month, all of a sudden we are only a week and a half before the event is supposed to happen in April. So just want to Danielle, you probably could speak a little bit more to this as well, from the restaurant and retail side of things, even going back to Madison's notes. Let me just find that here. So we would be asking in the permit, of course, if there's any type of closures, if there's any type of any permits that need to be made, we want to make sure that we're filling it out appropriately, but this would need to be in by, Megan, you need it the Tuesday noon prior to a board meeting, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what are you asking me?
For the permit.
For the village permits? Any type of agenda items need to be to the village hall by noon the Tuesday before your board meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
I would need it by next Tuesday,
the 14th.
if you're doing March.
Mhm.
Sooner preferably, instead of the last minute and having to change everything for the packet. But that is the deadline.
So what do you need from this board right now?
Just asking if, I mean, you've approved it, well, we had it as an Arbor Day event, which isn't happening now, so this is a pivot.
Arbor Day event is happening, it's just not happening in the DDA district.
Right, exactly,
So we don't wanna miscommunicate that.
No, for sure. So from the approved events calendar, we are just coming to you saying, are you all good with, and we don't have, the name isn't quite set in stone as far as the spring has sprung, but something like that happening the weekend of the 29th and 30th, but if there is a request by the restaurant and retailer focus group for having, for example, a closure of some sort, that has to be included in here. If there's going to be A-frames put up, for example, that has to be included in the events permit.
And I don't know if you want me to speak to what this focus group has come up with at this point. But the only closure that they are requesting at this time is that Marketplace Alley, and it is for that week. So it would be the,
You said it was the 24th through the 30th, right?
yes, thank you, 24th through the 30th. And what would, their reasoning is that there's going to be some tents that are put up in that back parking lot. So for safety of people that are setting up back there, to not have vehicle traffic going through that alley, as well as some other tents set up in the alley for plant sales, possible kids' crafts happening along that space.
And that's ultimately, it's the village's decision
Correct.
to grant that or not, so.
But it's
that
up
is
to
the
us
ulti-
to make the recommendation, is what they're asking.
That is
Right,
the
we're
only-
looking for board direction to fill out the event permit and what is included in it, so we are following board direction.
I feel like we don't have enough information at this time. I guess I don't understand the scope of everything.
So it was in Madison's report. And our pages are not numbered, so I apologize, but
MJC Marketplace is having a spring
there you go.
event that's shopping, basically a tent in the back. They're reaching out to all the restaurant and retail locations, asking for anything that they want to do promotion-wise. If there are specialty drinks that they want to promote, if there are any sales they want to promote. They are planning on doing a window contest. So any of the restaurant and retail that want to participate in a window contest, they would be promoted. You know, go similar to the snowman where you voted on a snowman, you can vote on a window. Spring is sprung window. They were planning on having in the alleys musicians.
Is there a budget for the event?
There is not at this time that I'm aware of. Elizabeth, I don't know if there was a budget initially for Arbor Day that you had.
Yeah, we had, we didn't have it as a separate internal, line item, but we have plenty of money in the CBD events, category. We did have a donation come in for, Arbor Day specifically for downtown, and then when they heard about the change of it, they aren't interested in changing that funding to this. In fact, we have to send them a refund, from that donation. But we have funding in there, and you all had approved having an event down there at the same time period, so, I mean, it's not gonna cost, I mean, last year we didn't spend much at all, so.
I can't imagine that, based on what they're talking about right now, I don't foresee any real spending other than the musicians, the few musicians that we have on that Saturday. And then any promotional materials, printed materials.
And Porter Johns.
Porta-John, sorry.
Who's gonna
Can
be
I-
accessing and using that alley? Any of the businesses downtown? Or, you said you're set stuff up in it, is that gonna be something that,
I'm sorry, behind MJC Marketplace, she is setting up a shop kind of behind their antiques and whatnot for sale.
so it's not in the alley?
Correct.
Got it.
The
Okay.
alley was going to be, they had reached out to Jusco's to see if they would potentially sell plants maybe in that alley. They have our flower contract, so it might be a nice thing, and also asked if they would consider doing like kids craft where kids got to plant seeds, you know, have little seedlings to go home with. And then also inviting the garden club to possibly set up, try to recruit more members, try to sell their garden club tickets, garden walk tickets, or save the dates, so things like that.
Okay. got it.
Can they use, because the Marketplace Alley is just such a hot topic item, and opening and closing it, I think, is just causing a lot of uproar. Can they do all of those things in one of the other alleys? I mean, why can't we do that in Parker Alley or Starkweather Alley?
It's a good point. You totally could. The business owner is concerned about safety because she's going to have people walking around and a big, huge tent set up behind. So the idea was you already have the safety issue. It's a big alley that can hold a lot of things, and we wouldn't have to close any other streets off. So it was kind of a kill two birds with one stone type of
Right.
thought.
But it's not that business owner's property, you know, and I think that it's like, because I want to use this space to expand my offerings.
I think some of
She's not expanding her offerings. Those offerings could be anywhere. She would go and ask for it to be closed anyways. It was an opportunity, since she's gonna go and ask for it to be closed anyways, we can utilize that space. And she's saying, yeah, go ahead and use it. So whether really this board approves it or not, I would anticipate she would try to.
Make that request.
Yes.
Right, yes.
Yeah, because we did leave it to where, when the temporary closure expired, it could still be requested for special
Right.
events and things of that nature, so we never ruled that out.
Right, but now it's a week, I mean,
Yeah, a week is a long time. when
Week
it's
is a long time.
For a,
The other part of all that, and y'all weren't here for some of the discussion and back in the day, and the thought is to try to your point of why does it go to somewhere else? It's really to try to drive something to sort of a stagnant corner of the village right now where a lot doesn't necessarily go on. I mean, Starkweather, there's a lot of activity, right? So it's nice to, then that would sort of, the hope would be to flow into that other corridor, because eventually, we would hope it would turn the corner and become more part of everything.
well,
So
and I
that
agree,
was
but I
the
think that
purpose.
corner now is much more happening than it was before. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well-
it's definitely not the corner it was 5 or 6 years ago.
No, and I'm with you, and I think some of the last effort of what happened there last fall might be part of that even, but just to keep, but that's the reason behind it. Just, you asked the question, like, hey, could we do it? So, yes, we could, but we could do everything somewhere else, but it'd be nice to take all the quadrants. I mean, even down by my building, which it doesn't really matter to me, but not much happens down there. It's a pretty little sleepy little corner, except for Peach Festival, then it gets a little hopping. But that's the answer, I think.
No, and I understand, I'm just saying, I mean, if I choose to use my back parking lot for something, I just don't think a street should be shut off to allow for it, but.
But it doesn't
my
sound like
opinion.
they're correlated, right? She's not asking for that because of, it's not her stuff.
No, it
Behind,
is.
she is setting up a market behind, which she's done for multiple years.
Yeah.
This is not anything new, the
Right.
market. The idea is that alley can be dangerous if cars are driving and you have customers shopping back there. So her thought was, if that's closed, then.
Make it a win-win.
Make it a win-win.
Yeah.
The DDA can use it
I think
for
it's
other
great.
things, which, again, she can go ask for on her own.
Right.
The only other additions on that would be, we don't even have to fill the permit out, she could do it on her own, we just still have to do a sign permit to have temporary aprons put up,
Right.
advertising it, and I don't know if we have to have a permit for Porta Johns or not, I don't think do we have to have a permit for Porta Johns, Megan?
I'd have to look it up.
John?
I just want to mention, first of all, a question. Elizabeth, you mentioned somebody donated to the DDA, or at least, no, did donate, because we have to give them a refund regarding Arbor Day. Who is that?
Extra Credit Union, they have given.
Extra Credit Union.
This year, they've
And-
given $2,000 and $500 for 4 separate events.
So we owe them $500?
Correct.
I love the sound of this event. Spring has sprung, whatever you end up naming it, I think it's great. I'm a little concerned, however, the tree board has convened a couple times. I have heard a couple preliminary ideas and some legwork that's being done, and it sounds tremendous. It's not taking place in the DDA district, which is fine, that's their decision. So needless to say, we are not partaking in any of that organizing. I will, however, say, we're good neighbors. I don't want to step on anybody's events. If we're going to do something and promote it, I'm hoping maybe we can speak to is it Arbor Board, Tree Board?
Tree board.
Whoever is organizing that event and help them and assist them and promote jointly in some way. Because, gee, I sure would hate somebody to fail because we went and did something at the same time as they were already planning. And from what I've heard, there's been some really good ideas thrown around, and some of them I think are already it's coming on quickly. And if in fact there's a donor that donated specifically for an Arbor Day event, let's make sure that that board's aware of it and that somebody on that board is speaking to that donor, which, thank you, you just told us was Extra Care Credit Union, right?
Extra Credit
Extra
Union.
Credit Union. So I don't know if there's somebody in communication with that board, but they certainly should know that.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised
I
we
do
were
know
collecting.
there was a significant donation already made for that event, So that particular sponsor, we want to be cautious of them as well. So I think it's a great event. I would only propose, let's please make sure whether it's co-promoting or we don't
Let's connect the
neglect what they're
dots.
doing. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would
connect
hate
the
to draw
dots.
people from them because of something else that we're doing. So
Where-
I don't know who's best to facilitate that, but
Yeah, I
just
don't
wanna
know
make that
much
mention.
about where is it taking place? Do we know yet?
It's gonna be over at Trailside Park
Are you
Okay.
doing that on Friday or Saturday?
on Arbor Day.
Oh, okay, so their event is on Friday. Arbor
Okay.
Day is on that Friday, the 28th, and this event is Saturday, Sunday.
So with this event, being that it's March, do you have a solidified plan of what 100% is happening? Because even if we approve to go forward, I mean, we have one meeting before the event. Is this enough time for the board to know what's happening, approve it? You know, is anything in place or solid?
No, so not much time has transpired
Yeah.
since this has come up. So basically what I've told you is what their
What you
plan
know.
is right now. The next steps and what we're gonna meet tomorrow was to solidify some communication to the downtown, to the CBD that Madison will be putting together with, you know, kind of specific details and asking who would want to be included. You know, what businesses want to be included, who would want to do it. And from there, once we have that information, once that focus group has that information, put more detail together, which hopefully could be emailed out to the board. But it's pretty much with what I've shared with you so far.
So we just need an approval we're making a motion to approve the request for an event permit? Because I don't see, there's
I
just no
don't know that we
documentation
even
to
need a
vote.
motion for it. We
Okay.
don't need, I don't feel that, because we've done event permits without board approval before.
Okay.
It's just looking for direction to make sure that that you're okay with this. And if as far as us initiating the alley closure, I mean, the business can do it on their own, and we can just move forward with just doing an A-frame, because there's nothing else in there that we need to do a permit for.
So
Because I wasn't
Dan-
aware of that part, so.
Danielle and Elizabeth, you guys have been working on this.
Yeah.
If you're both comfortable moving forward with it, I'm fine with it. I mean, if that's, I just don't want it to feel like it's thrown together last minute because we need to fill an event for spring. As long as it's not that, I mean, if you guys have been working on this and you have a path forward, I'm okay with that, but I mean.
Well, my only concern is, like with Winterfest, we kind of found out after the fact about, and I know this isn't in the works for this one, but we kind of found out after the fact, oh yeah, and there's gonna be food trucks. Are we gonna be surprised with a situation for this
Nope,
event?
definitely
And I
not.
know it's not food trucks, but is it, do we need,
I
if
think
we're
that's-
behind an event, do we need to know what's happening at the event?
I think that's the intention of me being the liaison, is to share as much as I possibly know. And based on what I know from our discussions, I kind of have a feel for what might not fly and what probably is going to be fine, or what might need to run by this board. So even if it needed to be an email of, hey, this came up, what do you guys think? I would certainly do that.
Okay, fair enough.
I would like to mention, to John's point, we did have a DDA member, or the tree board had a DDA member present at their last meeting to offer assistance and to troubleshoot or, offer ideas and such. I think with Arbor Day event, kicking off the weekend with Friday, following it through in town, because or the tree board rather, cannot spend their donated monies outside of that space. This is a great way to bring it in town also. We have to remember that the tree board services the whole village, so spreading Arbor Day around the whole village is really the focus of the tree board. So it wasn't any sort of shun to the DDA, and also there's possible construction in the village park at that time. Nothing's been pulled yet, but possibility is around the corner. So not having to move an event at the last minute, and focus it all around was really the intent there. So I think this would be great, whole weekend.
All right, great.
Okay.
moving on, we have the 8-week summer concert series, Wednesdays, July 12th through August 30th, 2023. We already kind of touched on this earlier. I think the dates are great. They're not conflicting with anything. The 8-week span, it's already been discussed that, you know, there's people working behind the scenes to get all those people in place. I think if we need to make a motion to approve it, is that what you're asking for?
I think just a little clarity, I mean, because this will be going into the next fiscal year funding, because
Yeah.
with musicians, save one from Vintage Fest last year, we pay the day of. We don't pay in it, we have not paid in advance, so it's just that, you know, some will perform for no cost, because they just wanna do it. Others can be pricey, and we're very cognizant of that, and Suzanne has done a phenomenal job with that, and Madison's very budget conscious, under my direction, and as am I, so, yeah, just looking for, and if we're following similar numbers from last year, I mean, the only cost involved is gonna be, again, like what Danielle was saying, print materials, like with the spring event, it's print materials, advertising, and paying a few of the musicians. Those are
Okay.
really our only costs involved.
So just be prepared to see that when we're doing budget discussions
talks
and
for
keep that in
April.
mind for the events.
Yep.
Okay. Next up, we need to set a date for the April budget workshop. Elizabeth included a few different dates there. We've got 6 to 8 PM, April 5th, 11th, or 13th. 9 AM till 11 AM on Saturday, April 15th.
I can do the 11th or 13th.
I can do any of them.
I will be on vacation on the 5th.
It sounds like we're talking the 11th or the 13th.
Yeah, I'm double checking something here, Zach.
What
I could
day
do
of the
the
weeks are
15th
those?
too. Oh, no, I can't.
Elizabeth, what day of the
Pardon?
week, what day of the week
So-
is the 11th?
Wednesday is April 5th.
Wednesday's the 5th, 11th is a Tuesday, 13th is a Thursday, and then Saturday, the 15th is a Saturday.
Saturday won't work for me. If you want.
Yeah, I don't wanna do a Saturday.
11th or 13th works for me.
I would say the 11th is a date that we're throwing out to the village council, so if we're doing that.
Let's call it the 13th. Can we make that work?
Stand by, 13th. That's Thursday.
I mean, you
Yep.
can do it, and you could have it in your own space, I just can't be in two places at once.
That's 9 to 11.
The 13th is 6
6
to
to
8.
6 to 8 PM.
How do I see that?
Oh, 9 to 11 is only on Saturday.
Oh, I
The
see how
Saturday
you
one,
did
yeah.
it.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
6 to 8 on the
6
5th,
to 8.
11th or 13th.
On the 13th. I think that's good for me, yeah.
Okay. 4/13, 6 to 8 PM. Correct?
Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay.
John, you still checking?
yeah, I'll make it work.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. All right, next up, we have Village Code section 46-312 review.
Yep.
Andrea?
So I just wanted, as we started talking about the 4 pillars, and we had talked quite a bit, and I know Elizabeth and I have talked about putting some plans together about recruiting and bringing new businesses to town. So I just wanted to kind of bring it to the forefront for everybody, is the code in the village council regarding permitted uses of businesses within the CBD, and what's allowed on first floor, what should be moved to second floor, and different things like that. So as we create those marketing materials, and as we go out and are identifying who we want to recruit, and different buildings that have open spaces, and are thinking about that, just to make sure that we're referring back to building code and permitted uses, so that we're not gung-ho going after somebody and then we find out, not gonna happen. So, just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention as we start thinking about building the pillars.
Megan, is there any plans to update that in the near future at all? Like, are we safe with going off of the current code as it stands?
There is talk at the planning commission updating, changing it to some mixed use, but that has more to do with the office district as it does opposed to your CBD. It's branching some of the CBD uses into the O. So I'm gonna say, I doubt it, but they are looking at the permitted
Okay.
uses of the CBD in the office.
Okay, so we should be. okay.
Safe to, yeah.
You know you can count on what's already there.
True.
I don't see them taking away.
Does the DDA have any say in this particular code?
That's a village ordinance set by the council at whatever
So
time they set that.
DDA can make no recommendations or
Oh,
anything?
you
It
can
is what
ask,
it is.
you
Absolutely,
can
anybody
ask and
can.
recommend anything you
So
want.
wouldn't that be a little bit more of where Andrew's going, is that maybe we need, again, not for tonight, but in our pillar discussion, to review this code and give our input? Because I know that this actually came up, maybe Greg might not know, it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, of what exactly that list is, and that there's some outdated information in there.
And also run it with planning as
Mhm.
they are bringing their recommendations up to council.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about that too. So once we kind of decide what pillar that falls under, maybe that a review of some of these ordinances wouldn't be a bad idea as a starting point for that pillar. And then maybe going to the village council and doing exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
John, and then bringing those and just making sure that everyone's on the same page, all the village, the planning commission, the DDA. So when we're really going after those businesses that we want to see in town, are we all on the same page? And
Yeah, because if planning is looking at this now, if you are wanting something different, now would be the time
Right.
to propose to planning.
Yeah, that should be a priority for this pillar, I believe,
I agree.
wherever we put it.
Now, it's gonna take a while, so it's not like, oh man, you need to hurry up and get on next month. They've already spoken. Our new planner, Karen, has spoken that, I mean, this is a process of almost a year. By the time you look through everything, propose everything, send out your notices to the residents around, that sort of thing.
Great. Something to definitely have on our radar. Moving on. Formation of the 4 pillars subcommittees. I sent everybody out that email last week. I just wanted to kind of get ahead of the game here a little bit so that we weren't having a long drawn-out conversation about where everybody should go. I gave you guys the pillars that we talked about, and I kind of I gave everybody 2, essentially. And I put you guys, I tried to mix it up so we weren't working with the same groups every time. But like I said, if anybody's interested in being somewhere else, speak now or forever hold your peace. But you can't say you don't want to be in any. It's not an option. So, unless you're Megan. So is everybody okay with the setup we have?
Yeah.
Greg's thinking.
I am thinking, and I apologize, I didn't study this part as closely as I should have. I don't know if I'm honestly just trying to plug myself in where I might be the most useful to this whole endeavor, and this organization thing. Nah, I don't think that's one of my strong suits. I gotta be honest with you there.
Okay. Where would you rather?
You have like clean up and tear down somewhere?
You're welcome to
Well,
volunteer
whatever
for any of
organization,
that.
There's a
Would that be
beginning and an end to
economic
it.
vitality?
Yeah, how about economic vitality maybe, and, design might be okay, yeah.
Yeah, I put
maybe.
you there because I kind of saw that would be in some of the alley and
You
parking
saw
lot.
the
that we-
flare in my.
Well, you're
what I
already
wear.
doing, you're already doing it. You're already there. So, okay, if we move Greg from organization to economic vitality, because we can't have 5, otherwise we have a quorum. Danielle's already in organization, so that leaves her out. John, Andrea, or Deborah? Would anybody like to move from economic vitality to organization?
Deborah's not here, so.
I volunteer
That's kinda how it
her.
works.
That's how it works. You don't show.
I don't care.
You don't, I mean, it's up to you, John.
If you're watching right now, Deborah.
We're sorry.
Oh. Do you want me to move your organization or?
To what, organization?
You're good at recruitment because you have that coffee shop where everybody comes in, you can snack them.
Well, he did recruit me.
There you go.
It's your fault I'm here.
Just do it, that's fine.
Okay.
It's your gift.
So John will move to organization, Greg's moving to economic vitality, vitality. I don't think we need to do it, let's make a motion to form this as presented, or as amended, so that we have it set.
Can I make sure we include my earlier question or point regarding where are we putting? I think
Oh, yeah.
You said regarding, there was an employment committee which currently exists of one.
Everybody else is gone.
So we want to know where is this going to go, and I guess that would tell us who's on it, correct?
Well, I would think it would go under organization.
I was thinking the same thing, just instead of volunteer recruitment and retention program, I mean, could just be employment, retention and recruitment. Why, were you hoping to get out of it?
Absolutely. But, I think it needs to be clear it's going somewhere. And then on that note also, Andrea's point of making sure included in this is the code section, because I think that is critical for the, I guess it's economic vitality.
vitality.
So I wanna make sure that that's listed on there, although I guess that committee is gonna pick
Yeah.
up on that.
You know, the question on that might be good to, if, Zach, because you have her contact information, what if you reached out to Dana and said, hey, from Ortonville's organization, but also from her experience with the Main Street program, finding out where do they put their employment, under these four pillars?
Okay.
And again, I think you referenced this, it doesn't have to be 4 pillars, I think it's.
I think
It might be a
just-
standalone, I don't know. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, but organization makes sense. So,
Yeah,
I think looking at it right now makes the most sense.
Yeah.
What this is, and the code makes the most sense on
Mhm.
economic vitality.
and
Yeah,
it really
and-
is up to these subcommittees to determine what they're going to tackle at the end of the day, right? I mean, there's some things that are necessary and some things that are gonna be more elective in the long run, you know? The employee review thing's necessary, it's required, we need to do that. Whereas deciding if we're gonna focus on hardscape with the alleys or dumpsters is more of an elective thing that would come out of a subcommittee, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna throw out there one more time, employment committee almost should be a committee unto itself.
Okay, I mean, we're not,
I mean,
we're
not
not,
in one of these. I
yeah,
just, because
we're not
it's
handcuffed.
necessary, it's required.
Okay.
And, I think it's sort of like capture the issue and move on, so to speak, whereas these pillars are ongoing all the time. I don't know if that
So you're
makes
talking about
sense.
more of a strike force for employee committee, like when there's an HR issue, these types
Oh,
of
yeah,
things
and
or something?
we owe Elizabeth some information coming upon a year,
That's
if I'm
true.
not mistaken, from the
Yeah,
I'm only
that-
speaking from the last time I was on this employment committee. There's yearly reviews, there was a mention of 6 months reviews and so on. We owe Elizabeth some information here, we owe her some feedback, we owe her, flat out a review and,
Yep.
you know, so that should be addressed, it doesn't need to be in one of these pillars.
that's
I
fair.
agree, and that's why you got moved to organization, because you're organized.
So I've already.
So, yeah, it was
So-
a good decision.
So then, where I had initially wanted to add this to the agenda, I think it's something we need to
well, since we're talking.
agree on.
If,
To form the committee, who's on the committee, and
Sure.
that committee needs to meet.
okay, so do you wanna do that in conjunction with this motion, or form that subcommittee separately after we approve this?
I think it should be separate.
Okay, so let's get a motion to approve the current 4,
Pillars.
pillar subcommittees as presented with the amended change of moving Greg from organization to economic vitality and moving John from economic vitality to organization.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Tar,
I'll second.
second by Brandt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next, John, you want to make a motion to form, well, let's talk about who wants to,
So this could be 11IA, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You want, a motion, we need to reform what's it called, employment committee.
Who wants to be on it?
There was a volunteer already presented to me to voice for her, who's not at this meeting.
Okay,
If we want to accept her or not, that's Deborah.
Okay.
so,
How many people should be on the committee?
No more than-
3 to 4.
Yeah, no more than 4. I would volunteer for that.
I can be
Frankly,
on it.
I've been on the board, you know, one of the longest here, which is, I think, a good thing. And I've got some experience in that area for sure, but
I have a lot of HR background.
And I don't know if as chair, since I probably work with Elizabeth the most, if I should be on there, or, I mean,
probably not.
you thinking no?
I probably not.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure, but it would make sense
Okay.
because, you know, for all the obvious reasons. I mean, you'll be the one delivering info to her and, you know, counseling and things like that as needed and.
Okay, fair enough.
So is that a yes or no for him?
Sounded like a
That was a
no.
yes. What?
I thought Greg said no.
I didn't, s-
Suggestion.
Your
no.
suggestion, your thoughts.
yeah, my
Yeah,
thoughts were that
yeah.
it probably would be wise for you to remove yourself from that.
Okay,
and-
yeah, that's
and,
fine.
You know,
All right, so I think 3 is a good number. We've got Deborah, Greg, and Andrea for the employment subcommittee.
John, you have
So,
no interest in
you're
being
off
back on it?
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
that's fine, because I know you have experience with it, so that's all. But you would bring some history, which I wouldn't have, because I wasn't on the committee last time. I think that'd be valuable,
It's up to you, John.
and there's nothing wrong with 4.
No.
Business
You're really
only wants to be.
organized. I mean, you're in an organization.
I'll abstain from that committee. I'm certainly open for any kind of questions or any kind of history that I can, you know,
Okay.
Fair.
enlighten you guys with, but, since we have 3 is all we need, we think as a minimum, I'm good.
All right, so do we have a motion to form the employment subcommittee with board members McLeod, Tar, and St. Laurent?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Lee, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rose, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on. Item J, we have social media policy review.
Okay. So I got some comments here, so if you'll just allow me to get through them. I was really disappointed the last couple of days to see the DDA Facebook page. I think everyone's, you know, has a right to their opinion, pro and con to any subject. But to see the comments on our page attacking business owners in the CBD, or I mean, really anybody, was really, just really disappointing, really disheartening to see. Let alone that these were 2 village leaders making comments about a business owner was awful. It's comments like, they're not friendly, they're not as nice as previous owners, they don't know their customer base, they're not believed when they're expressing their opinions. And this business owner has as much right to express their opinion on any subject matter as anybody else does. Whether you like the alley, you don't like the alley, you want it open, you don't want it open. It's using their rights to come to a public forum and express their opinion. And this board almost unanimously voted to reopen the alleyway to be an alley. And to have someone who's used their rights to use public forum and speak their opinion be completely bashed on a DDA Facebook page, I think is just unacceptable. And to be, let alone be bashed by the director of the chamber, to be bashed by a village trustee. Now, these people, you know, they don't owe us anything, and it's unfortunate that they choose to behave this way. But my issue is with this board allowing those posts to be on our page and allowing those posts and our DDA website, our,
No, you- Because I know at least about social media.
if I could just finish my statement, though.
But you said on the website.
I'm sorry, the
Hold on.
Facebook page.
Okay, yeah, that's why I
And
didn't understand.
Andrea has the floor right now. Let's.
Yeah,
Well,
if
I
I-
just didn't understand.
Yeah.
on the
Facebook
website
page.
when she said that.
And allowing our Facebook page to be used as a vehicle for attacking is not right. And I think that to allow it to be posted and to allow it to sit there, and I don't know why. And I spoke with Elizabeth about this today. At first, I wasn't sure if our Facebook page was manned by somebody else. I found out it's not. It's manned by our director. And why is this allowed to happen? Why is this allowed to be left on there? And, you know, we spoke today, we had a conversation about it. I wasn't really happy with the response that I got, which was, sometimes you just gotta let things go. The other response was, I can't have an opinion on this subject. That's not okay to me.
I'm
We
sorry,
need to have.
Who can't have an opinion on that?
You told me that. You said, I'm the director, I can't have an opinion. When I said, do you think that this is right, that they're posting these things? There's no acceptability to me to not have an opinion on publicly bashing somebody on our page. So we do have a social media policy, or the village does, and I would like to know why we're not enforcing it.
So
Well,
can we ask,
No, go ahead, Greg.
so because I probably know least about social media here, if you're talking about on Facebook, so somebody made some crazy post on Facebook about a business
So
owner?
it's not just a crazy post. So just so you understand, we posted a post alerting the village, or alerting our followers on our Facebook page that the alleyway has now been opened back for traffic.
Okay.
Some people posted, oh, you know, I wish it wasn't, I liked it the way before. Some people, okay, whatever, that's, you know, public comment. A village trustee and the director of the chamber went on a public attack of a village business who has spoken out and saying, this is hurting my business, I'm glad, you know, who has said to the village, and he's not nice, he's unfriendly, he's not as good as the old owners. I don't believe him that it's hurting his business.
So can't you just take that off? I don't
That's what I'd
understand
like
that.
to know why we're not.
That's what she's
Okay,
asking.
but whose job, I'm
That
just
would be-
asking.
It's ours.
It's
It's our
ours.
job, it's our page.
But I understand it, but does, I don't know anything about Facebook, but to me, I mean, it would seem to me, any of us saw something like that, we would alert our admin, who, if it's her or whoever, and say, hey, take that off. What am I missing on that? I mean.
It's a
why
great
wouldn't we
question.
wanna pull that off? I'm just.
Right.
And I
so-
did that today, so I'm wondering why the response I got was, just let it go. And then the next response I got was, I don't have an opinion on it because I'm the director.
Well, that's a tough thing. but-
It's not a tough thing.
Well, on the opinion it is, because, you know.
It doesn't matter what our personal opinion is, we have a right.
That's exactly right, and she's saying she can't have an opinion on it. So do we have a policies act that we remove that?
We
stuff?
do, and I wasn't able to find the social media policy. Do you have that pulled
The
up?
Village of Romeo social
Oh, we
media.
have our,
No,
we have our
one.
own.
We have
we
a-
have
I
a
don't
separate
have
one.
it.
It's in the shared drive that I shared with you all.
Okay.
It's one of the documents in the shared drive with all the trustees. And
Okay.
I
Do you
sent
have
the email.
access to it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I have a copy of it. I always
Okay.
have a copy of it right here, so.
Does it say anything about that? Maybe we didn't address it, but.
Yeah, and you know, I was up north without service. I was up on the Mission Point, and my phone doesn't work great up there. And so when we spoke, I think it was up around 4 or so, and I said, you know, the meeting is in a couple hours, you know, and you had said that you planned on bringing this up tonight. So it's not that I don't feel like I have an opinion, because we've had a few people, in fact, we have a Google file document of postings that we've actually deleted, because we
But
keep-
why
we
wasn't
keep
this
that.
one deleted today?
Because I was having communication from one board member and I work for 9. and I work for you all when you're in session. And so because I was working on other things at the moment, and I didn't get, and it was a couple hours away, Andrea, I wanted to make sure, and it was gonna be talked about tonight. You know, I've reached out to the two people that you mentioned, and I said, you might wanna consider deleting these and give them the chance to delete them on their own. But I can also do the same thing. I will take whatever direction this board
But
chooses to do.
why did we not follow the policy, though?
What is the, just so I have some clarification, Andrea, what do you think the policy says that
Well,
Elizabeth?
I'm asking her to share the policy with us.
Well, but you said, why didn't you follow the policy?
Well, we have a village policy, but now I'm asking her what this policy is.
Sure, so content containing any of the following will be removed from the Romeo DDA social media forum: obscene comments or hate speech, personal attacks, insult, threatening language, private or personal information, including contact information, potentially libelous statements. Libelous, thank you. Falsification of identity, copyright, trademark, plagiarized materials, comments or messages in violation of the laws of the or the Romeo DDA policy, comments, links, information unrelated to the purpose of the forum, spam, other commercial, political, proselytizing messages, or solicitation of funds. The Romeo DDA is not responsible for or liable for or content posted by any participant in a Romeo DDA social media forum who is not a member of the Romeo DDA staff. Users should have no expectation of privacy in postings. By using Romeo DDA's media sites, you consent to the Romeo DDA's right to access, monitor, read any postings on the site. User must understand that social media is permanent, retrievable, and public. So I'd be happy to do that. I thought since you all were going to be sitting here, had this have been another day where there wasn't a meeting imminent within a couple hours, absolutely. But I felt, considering the situation, it was best to get the voice of the board, and so you all have asked about the social media policy, and Zach, I had reference to him a few weeks ago. It's on the shared site, and I sent you guys that link.
So, but when I guess my understanding is you were up north this weekend, when you came in today to work and you saw these, knowing our social media post, and there was an attack on a business owner in the district, why weren't they deleted, knowing what our policy is?
I guess I'm looking for clarity from the board on this one, because it's an interpretation. Is it an attack? Is it not an
Yeah,
attack? Is it an opinion versus, I don't know, I'm asking you that.
This would be my take on this, and this is, I'll be honest with you, the first I would even heard of this or saw this, and lo and behold, I'm even mentioned in here. I was not even aware of it. Here's what it sounds like to me. Right now, looks like there's one set of keys to the kingdom, and you have issues, you were up north, you're out of town, whatever it is, which is fine. We need a second set of keys.
Technically,
Okay, something's gotta be changed as far as that goes.
Well-
So that when there is an issue, there's not an excuse as far as, well,
it is in
That key.
place to where the chair is supposed to also have access to the
Okay.
page.
So
I do not currently have access to the page. Elizabeth and I did discuss that before.
Okay.
I don't have a personal Facebook page, so the account that would be under the admin also is accessible by my staff who does our social media. So just to make sure that there is, Elizabeth basically just said, like, can you just make a document that says, like, anybody who has access to this will not post on behalf of the DDA? Just more from a safety standpoint, because I have other staff members who would technically have access to the page.
yeah, whatever the logistics
Yeah.
is fine, but I think that's kind of where part of the problem is we need a second set of keys.
Yeah,
That
and
should
we
start there.
do, per the policy, we
Okay.
do, and we just haven't switched over from previous chair to current chair.
She brings up a good point, but about this, and I'm with you, I mean, I don't think anything like that should be on there, I get it, but she's in a little bit of a pickle for the interpretation thing, and I haven't seen these posts, I have no idea what they said, but, I don't know if it's so blatant that or if it's just like, hey, someone's spouting off, and, is it her job to smash people, because it may happen the other way, where something goes on where, I don't know, I don't have the
Yeah.
answer to it, but it's not as simple as it's being made out to be.
No, it is.
I think Greg, I think if you read these.
It is.
If it was your.
Maybe so, yeah, I didn't read
think
all.
if it was your business,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you
like I
really
said-
need to see what's written to
Yeah,
understand. So
okay.
just to be fair with you on
Well,
that one.
someone screenshot it and texted
Well,
me.
and not to pile on Elizabeth, but you made the comment just a few minutes ago that if it were another day when we weren't have a meeting that night, it sounded like, maybe you didn't say these exact words, you would have taken it down.
I
Well,
would have
if-
probably
if that
had a
was-
communication with the chair and said,
Yeah.
how would you like me to
So
handle
if
this?
that was your thought process, if that was your direction in your own mind, then obviously there was some gray area there, it should have at least been temporary. So I guess the solution,
Yeah, moving
as we
forward.
discussed, is,
Well, the
you know,
other-
this shouldn't be all on Elizabeth's shoulder.
Right.
If
We've
it
gotta
can't be
give-
maintained,
we've
I
gotta
mean,
give her
social
help.
media is a minute-by-minute thing.
Yep.
And if it can't be maintained, then we have to have other people that have access.
Right, we've gotta give her
Because
help.
this is terrible stuff that's
But
out there.
let's be careful too. She's only human and she's just an employee of ours, and all of us at our work don't do a perfect job. So I don't
Greg.
think we can paint her in a corner, like, why didn't you, idea?
But Greg, I had the conversation today and it's still up. It would be very easy to open up and say
Well-
delete, 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 and it's still at,
I'm anxious to see it. And
quarter to
it
10,
sounds like
still
to me
up.
She probably failed in doing that, and I fail about 6 times every day, so we need to counsel her on that, and be more quickly on it.
Greg, we can always have an excuse for why things
No,
don't
it's
happen.
not an excuse.
If it
it's
was
a
your
reason.
business
No,
and
it's
I
not.
said these
It's
things,
not. I never said, it's not, it's a reason. I gave you a reason.
It's a reason.
She failed in
Okay.
doing it, it sounds like.
Listen, isn't that, can't you just turn comments off on your posts?
you absolutely can.
Can we just moving forward, can we just leave comments off so that this doesn't happen in the future and that there's no,
I mean, can we
trying to
delete the
decipher?
slander on this guy though
I
first?
can take care of that as
Can
soon
you
as.
block people from going back on it?
You
Can't
can, absolutely,
Well,
you
why,
can do
why wouldn't
that.
that be? I mean, is that possible, and is that out of bounds?
It's not out of bounds, but you're blocking the chamber director and a village trustee.
Well, if they need to be blocked, they need to be blocked.
I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if that's part of the policy and that's what you wanna do, then that's what you'd be doing.
I just don't know why, I mean, again, it's just, I think that we need to have a much better plan going forward than these sorts of things sitting on there about someone's business for 4 days.
Does Verona Creative do social media management? Quotas for that too.
I'll be happy to take care of that as soon as this meeting is over.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next we have board member comments. Andrea?
None.
Megan? Carl? Danielle?
Nope.
John?
I'm all set, thank you.
Greg?
Do you have an hour? No, I just want to again thank Madison back there again for your hard work out there as a young person. It's great to see and pushing forward and doing the hard work and out there. Thank you, and I know you're getting great experience that you'll take on to the next thing someday, but great stuff. And then also, Elizabeth, thank you for the meeting you facilitated. You brought in 2 really good people last week or 2, whatever it was, a couple weeks ago. Sorry, the technology was a little sketchy and the weather was a little weird and everything else, but that was really good and that was very helpful. And I think there should be a time where we all reflect back on that more and draw on some of this stuff. We kind of blew right through it today, didn't really, but it was good stuff, and thank you for reaching out to those community or outside folks that were very valuable to us, at least to me, so thank you.
That led us to our
And I,
Right.
and I do just want to, Marty asked me to note this. Four Corners is going to be featured by America's Best Restaurant, and it's Friday. It's not till June, it's June 23rd, but I'm bringing it up tonight because she's graciously said, I want to share the spotlight. It's not about Four Corners, it's about Romeo. How can we highlight Romeo? So when we get into the promotion end, let's keep that date in mind so that we can help facilitate that as a DDA and like put Romeo's best face forward, having these people come to town. They have a film crew, they have people who come and follow them around, so it should be a really exciting time for Romeo and Four Corners, so.
On that, if I may,
Yeah.
just as you all hear of businesses that are having an event or doing something because sometimes we catch something that's happening, but if you see, remind businesses, if you have an event, contact the DDA staff to say, will you promote this event? Could you put this in the story or put this, tag this or whatnot? Facebook changed a few things recently. I know Emily and I have talked about our love-hate relationship with social media. They changed it so where it doesn't show up in my feed the same way. And so things get buried, so we don't see them. So if you see that, and Megan, thank you for mentioning that a few weeks ago regarding one of the cottage events that were happening. So if you can do that, that would be really helpful. We do that with our MailChimp, but, trying to encourage businesses to reach out to us.
Great. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Brandt, second by Rose, all in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.